It'll be Robinson, and he finds a running lane. What a sweet move to the second level and beyond. Touchdown, Bijan Robinson.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Mekhi Bernard in the game, and here's a flea flicker, rising with a ton of time. Got a receiver wide open, and it's caught for a touchdown. Dalton Kincaid got behind the defense, and Utah is on the board first.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Millen, ball comes loose, and it's going to be an incomplete pass. No, it's not whistle dead. It's still alive. Turner is going to waltz into the end zone for a touchdown.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
To Kendre Miller. Right up the gut goes Miller. He's gone. Touchdown.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
For those who just joined us, Adrian Martinez still dealing with a knee issue. Deuce Vaughn running away from the Cowboys.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Wednesday. The Masters opens tomorrow. Please, if you can, we'll give you one more time in a second. Not right now, but when we have Rob Bolton on at 4:30 to discuss the Masters and our picks, we'll have the link ready for you if you want to join our Pick'em contest, a chance to win a couple of dozen golf balls. I believe it's going to be of your favorite choice, whether it's Titleist or Bridgestone or Srixon or whatever you might use. With Bear Ridge Golf Club as our golf sponsor for all of what we do. Also today, tomorrow is our third anniversary when we went on the air, April 6th of 2020, with this show, 365 Sports. Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina in studio, Garrett Ross, and also Emery Winter. We will hear from Jim Williams, media consultant today, who was quoted by Dennis Dodd in his CBS Sports article yesterday. And some of that he's already said to us on the show, but he'll join us today. Mac Rhodes today. We'll also hear from Ross Hodge, the new men's basketball coach at North Texas, replacing Grant McCaslin, who's at Tech, John Cooper on the NFL draft, and also John Machota from theathletic.com on the NFL. So here we go. Dale Bonner. Someone tweeted back at me, what in the hell is going on? Dale Bonner, Baylor guard, has entered the transfer portal. He's a grad transfer. Yesterday, it was, 2 days ago, L.J. Cryer. Today, Dale Bonner. And I tried to do a little bit of due diligence, wasn't successful at that, but it does appear as if the guard room, which was thick and pretty deep, this is not a huge loss. But then again, he's a guy that understands the system and played pretty well down the stretch for Baylor.
Yeah, he played really well, but I just don't. I think maybe part of it is just what the future is for the guard position at Baylor, and what they have coming in, what they've got coming back. There's probably less playing time. He's probably played his way into somewhere where he can be maybe a little more in the rotation, because even as well as he played down the stretch, he's still going to have to kind of fight his way into the lineup next season too. Maybe a little bit less, but there's still going to be an uphill battle. So it's probably best for him to transfer as well. I mean, look, if LJ Cryer's going, that certainly does open up more opportunities for Dale. But, when you've got the guys that are coming in and transfers and all that, he probably needs to go a place where he can get guaranteed more minutes.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the most gigantic loss in comparison to a Flagler potentially, or a Keontae George for that matter. But yeah, he wants to play more. I mean, I think it's pretty simple. Guys transfer for lots of different reasons, and a primary driving force in wanting to transfer is to play more minutes than you're likely going to play moving forward. So that's kind of how I view it. I mean, this one was, I guess, somewhat surprising. More surprising than Turner Love Day. Or I guess, was that more surprising? Yeah, more surprising than those guys, because those guys were not playing it barely at all.
Right.
Keontae George was not a surprise at all. We knew he was one and done all along. So this one's a little bit surprising compared to those, but not a shocker by any means. And, yeah, this team is going to look pretty different next year. That's 5 guys. I mean, that's 5 guys on a pretty small roster in basketball that will be noticeable next season. So we'll see how they go about addressing that outside of, the 2 recruits they've got coming in, and, what they do in the transfer portal, obviously.
All right, I want to thank Texas Beef House. It's our newest sponsor. They sent a shipment. Kim Coulter, in fact, in the chat room said he's on his way to pick up his shipment. I'm telling you right now, it's special. It's the Wagyu beef out of just outside of Tyler in White House. And thanks to Aaron Duvall, sent me a package that had all of what you would ever want. I cooked the burgers today, and there were 3 or 4 packs of them. Regular, the Wagyu burgers, and also jalapeno and cheese. Paul Catalina, there's a picture of it right there. I would normally have used my grill, but for whatever reason today, it decided to be a little bit a diva. So I had to use the stove, but believe me, Paul, you had a piece. You don't have to say too much, because I think you still have some burger in your mouth, but how good was it?
No, it was fantastic. It was delicious. Very, very tasty. I had the jalapeno cheese. Wagyu was really, really good, and just really juicy. I mean, it's I one time at we'll just call it a big box store that you have to have a membership to go into, bought some Wagyu beef. It was in one of those. There was 3 pounds of it in a bulk package. It definitely was not all Wagyu beef.
Yeah.
It was not this compared to that, not even
This
close.
is from your pasture to what they do, and then to you on your grill and or on your table in the dining room or wherever you may want to eat it. It is fantastic. There are burgers for Emery, also Garrett, Craig, as well back in the back. We appreciate Aaron Duvall, TexasBeefHouse.com. And we would love it if you, like Kim, would go online and order to support one of our great sponsors of this show. All right, Arizona State University taking advantage of UConn. This is kind of throwing some shade, but the responses on this were pretty cool. So Dan Hurley at UConn wins a national title. His brother is the coach at Arizona State. So Sun Devil basketball put this out. Congrats on a great season, but then attempted to tie the names of Hurley. I get that, but almost as if the Hurley family and Bobby has a championship at Duke, but almost so a lot of the responses, or some of them were, thanks for our national championship. Since Arizona State feels like this is part of theirs, signed USC or whoever else.
Well, look, they share DNA, so it's obviously you want to congratulate your coach's brother. But yeah, another successful national championship. I don't know. I don't think that's a social media department that maybe is out over its skis a little bit, or whoever decided to tweet it or didn't figure it out. Sometimes they just don't go and ask, hey, look at this. Does this look like something that makes sense? And nobody goes, oh, this is what they're going to say to make fun of it. Which is why I often believe that you need one truly, I wouldn't say truly, but someone who has a little bit of a like dark or like immature sense of humor sometimes when you post things or come up with ad campaigns and go, what's the way people can make fun of us this way, and ask that person, and then like, okay, well, we're going to do this. Clearly it didn't happen in the department there on Arizona State, because they had nothing to do with this other than the fact that their coaches are brothers.
Yeah, but so Bobby Hurley, who won a national title at Duke, coaching at Arizona State, his brother Dan, on that tremendous run by UConn to win the national title. Now, the top 10 college football recruiting budgets, none of these teams on here should surprise you. There may be 2 or 4 teams that you thought, this is according to USA Today, and I believe was actually a research project out of Syracuse University. The USA Today Sports Network published this. Georgia won. Not a surprise. Clemson, A&M, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Texas. Alabama, Michigan, Oregon, and then Florida. These are the top 10. There's other schools like, I wondered, well, where's LSU? Where is Ohio State? And then again, that doesn't mean they're not like at 1.58 or whatever would be if you extended the list number 1 through 10. And anybody there that you surprised that they're in the top 10? I'm not. I think every one of them would make sense. The only question is some of the maybe teams or programs that I mentioned.
No, as far as surprises and Ohio State is just the first team that kind of jumped out since I see Michigan right there. I guess my question is not really who's missing or who we see on there, but what is the $2 million extra that Georgia's spending compared to like the other bottom 5, or the $2 million more that Clemson is spending, compared to number 11 or 12? What is that going to? That's my question actually, is what is the dip? Like, what are you, if you're all doing the same things basically, what are you spending $2 million more on? Is it like airfare? Is it like expensive dinners? Like, where is that coming from, or what is that going to? That is my question. I'm just super curious about what all that entails, because that's a lot of freaking money, man.
Well, what was Texas? Texas was 6th, right?
Yeah.
So Georgia's spending almost twice as much as Texas, who is opulent. Like they've always had a high budget.
Tennessee does the same thing. They're at 4 and yet still 1.6 million.
A&M gets clowned all the time for all the money that they spend for, seemingly no reason. I mean, that's the thing. If they won national championships, nobody would make fun of the money they're spending, but it's the fact that they're always like a step short, right? Or not quite as good as they feel like they are supposed to be or pretend to be. That's, why A&M gets clowned. A&M could really clown on a lot of people if they could just, have the success mirror the efforts. And they've had little bits where it has, and you've seen how that kind of takes off. But unfortunately, they've never really hit a stride that's been long-lasting. And maybe that's still to come. Who knows with Jimbo Fisher? But, yeah, that's my question is that's all the usual suspects right there for the most part. I'm sure there's a couple of schools that, somebody's going like, hey, where is so-and-so? But, Ohio State being the prime example of that. But, yeah, what's the extra $2 million going to? I mean, you're not hosting 500,000 more kids on visits, so where is that going? Yeah, that's what I would love to know.
Remember the lavish hotel rooms? I think there was a story that was written. I don't know if it was in theathletic.com or Ross Dellinger, or perhaps it was Sam Kahn. UT had their big weekend of visits, and they discussed the food, the hotel, and it's part of the deal. But then you have Georgia at $4.5 million. And then here's a part of the story. This excludes successful programs. There are the private schools, USC, Miami, Notre Dame, and even last year TCU, who played for the national title. Not a part of this list. Not sure if their budgets are higher. I don't know if USC would be Miami. I'm not sure if they would sneak into the top 10. Oklahoma State, according to this article, and this article was on the Volunteer Tennessee National. I guess it was in Knoxville, the Knoxville News, but it was from USA Today Sports Network. Oklahoma State, according to the article, spent the least among the Power 5 public schools at just under $460,000. Mississippi State was last in the SEC at just over $630,000. This is according. Vanderbilt did not disclose their financial report either. So
I don't think that they would have made too many waves.
Put that up again, Garrett. I think that's pretty interesting to see. And there's no surprise who's on here. Maybe the differences. And then, we have rules if we have like a top whatever. Okay, you take somebody out, Who would you take out if it's Oregon or if it's LSU or if it's Ohio State? Not Oregon, but Ohio State, LSU, or whoever it might be.
I mean, to take out and do what, though? I mean, that's pretty much like I said, that's pretty much the lineup right there. I mean, that's all the big brands. And, again, you might have an Ohio State that's missing, but I mean, that's the teams. That's all the big teams right there. So,
well, and my question is, Craig and Paul, there's nobody on that list, though, that jumped out at you like, man, why are they on the lot? Right?
No. Yeah. The only thing that jumps out at me, and this was if I was an athletic director, if I'm Scott Strickland at Florida, I'd be like, hey, we got to make this $1.6 million work for us. But
Tennessee, by the way, this is 2022. They finished 17th last year in the recruiting rankings. Now they'll get a bump because of the kind of year they had for 23.
And it was also like, look, who's Florida's? They've got three main rivals: this FSU, Georgia, and LSU. And Georgia, obviously, the most scary and important one right now because they're the one who's winning national titles. And back-to-back years, they're outspending them by almost $3 million. So there's a line of thinking this is whatever Georgia's doing that we aren't is working for them. So, yeah, I would concern me when I saw that. But sometimes you have the money, sometimes you don't. I mean, you can't just decide, like, we're going to do this because money has to come from somewhere. Now, an athletic department like Florida or Oregon or wherever wants to spend more money, they can probably get more money to spend. But you also have to make sure that that's effective. And they both have, like, the two programs in the bottom of the top 10, which are still, in the top 10. But if you're comparing yourself to the ones in the top two, you have new coaches.
And then they're also talking about all of those schools that are very much in the fertile recruiting grounds, who in some cases maybe there's two or three that don't need to spend as much because of where they are. But hell, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma are smack in the middle of the fertile recruiting grounds.
Well, I mean, there's did you see the CBS Sports one that has everybody listed?
No, I didn't go into that.
Okay. Yeah, they don't have Baylor or TCU, but you can see everybody's. I mean, there's a full list of every conference on CBS that I just came across for those who want to cross over and see, like, how Indiana compares to Ohio State. For what it's worth, they spend, let's see here, $826,000. I don't know if that's a comparison. Oh, all these pop-ups. Never mind. Disregard. Forget that. But, yeah, there's other places, I suppose, that you could see more of it if you're interested in your Iowa budget or whatever. So, yeah, it's cool.
We will have Jim Williams, media consultant. We'll have Mac Rhodes. He'll be with us today at a little after 3:30. And then also, of course, get through the rest of the next 3 hours with us and with you on 365 Sports. One more time, we wanted to send out our condolences to those affected with the loss of Gold and Blue Dude, who passed away yesterday. We put up that GoFundMe page from yesterday. And again, the Petrie family and others, we are thinking about you very much so during this particular time. Also, we will have, what are you shaking your head for? We'll have tomorrow a condensed show. Friday's Good Friday. We hope you enjoy what could be a 3-day weekend for Easter weekend. We're now joined by Jim Williams, media consultant, with us on 365 Sports. Jim's been a part of what we've done really for about the last month. And then now others around the country, Jim, picking up on what you're doing and some of your quotes yesterday by Dennis Dodd and CBS Sports. And a lot of that you've discussed with us before, but I think of all of what was said yesterday, that 50%, how are they going to get there type of stat is probably what got most of the interest. Would you agree?
Probably. First of all, good to be with you guys. And second of all, you and Paul are my agents from now on, so we'll deal with that later. It basically boils down to, and we've talked about this, just so you know, if you lay out the programming grid, right, like we all used to do when we were in programming, you start looking where slots are. You know, we heard that NBC might be interested. Well, okay, if they're interested on a Saturday afternoon, what are they going to do with NASCAR? And that's the Xfinity Series, so that's sponsored by Comcast. So I'm thinking they're not going to bump it. And if they go to USA and did something in the evening, they'd be up against themselves on, you know, their Big Ten package. So if you go down each slot, you know, of each one of the major networks, that really doesn't give you much. Now, again, we're talking here that the president of Arizona said 50% or more, right? I can get you to 50%, but I can't get you more.
Jim, you mentioned that the CW and that Ion are not bad ideas. Obviously looked a little down upon when that report came out about Ion because most people have never heard of it. The CW, to me, seems pretty interesting in that, look, this has been bought. They need to do something. They're not going to keep just running Riverdale forever. So why would it not make sense for the Pac-12 to be like, look, we're struggling. They need help. We need help. Let's do this.
Well, and they've got, you spoke about it yesterday. They have legacy stations. They got KTLA in Los Angeles. They got WGN in Chicago. They got WPIX in New York City. So I mean, they've got the legacy TV stations where people would watch, and promotion would be relatively easy. So yeah, I mean, that whole situation. Again, is it a perfect deal? I mean, I think everybody, you, me, you would all rather be sitting around a table talking, with CBS, NBC, ABC, and Fox, but that ain't happening right now. So where do you go? You got to get creative, and that's why I said, look, you've got the reach with CW, you've got the reach with Ion. Both of them can give me the promotion I need to be relevant in the markets that they have, and they have some pretty important markets if I'm the Pac-12.
Jim, how do you view that there was at one point in time a lot of Big 12 chatter, then you had the big Pac-12 pushback and all of the propaganda talk and the accusations over Endeavor and all this weird stuff, and then now the Pac-12 is out there boasting and talking about how their deal is going to be better and it's around the corner, and here we are, and it's been like 3 weeks since then. So I know there's not a firm date, but how do you just view that sort of back and forth of, I guess, momentum swings to where we're now just kind of sitting here and nobody's really saying much of anything at this point?
I think given the fact that it's Passover and Easter, that's a good thing if we're not, having a holy war between the Big 12 and Pac-12. I thought the whole Endeavor thing was hilarious, frankly. One of the world's biggest public relations and promotions companies is going to run a Twitter, a Twitter campaign to destroy, a conference. No, come on, that's ridiculous. I mean, we could do that with 6 guys in the basement of somebody's house. No, I think right now it's two passionate fan bases, frankly, not knowing what's going to happen. And when there's silence, that silence, that void gets full pretty quick. And so, I don't know. They seem to be on a time schedule. I mean, that's what Dennis and I talked about, was, you had that one interview that the president of Arizona gave, where he was, firm on the amount of content that they wanted on linear, and a timeline, and then a couple of week or so later, that same guy turns around and says, "Nah, look, if it takes time, we got 15 months. It takes time," and that piqued my interest as to, okay, did he see a deal that hit at 50, or more, or was that his messaging to Kliakov? Look, I've seen what we got. It ain't good enough if you don't give me 50 or more.
So mentioned,
sometimes it works in both ways,
Yeah. You mentioned the possibility, if not on ABC, CBS, or whoever it might be, ESPN, whatever's not available, that the alternate type cable channels with the CW, Ion, whoever it might be, how much money do they have?
I don't know that they're going to have a lot of money, but if I can get my streaming partners on board for this, and they're paying me, you and I've talked about this number before, anywhere north of 25, between 26, 27, 28, $1 million, then I can go and get less money from them because I need that exposure. I mean, this goes to a matter of need versus a matter of dickering with them over, cash that they can give me.
Jim Williams, media consultant, also Forbes columnist with us on 365 Sports.
So, Jim, what do you feel like the coming steps are in this here now that we are in April and, the April 15th deadline was thrown out there, but
Right.
That, was kind of maybe more arbitrary than we thought. So what do you think the next steps are?
Well, honestly, Paul, I'm trying to think, and I can't. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been trying to think. To me, there's got to be a deal here somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Something is there because they keep talking about it. Now, it may not be a firm offer. It may be, a deal memo of sorts. Maybe Fox and Apple are talking together. Bob Thompson has said that before. You never know what's going on here. So we could find out, next month. We could find out in a month. I don't think that anybody knows at this point, but I really find it hard to believe that there isn't something that these folks know that exists and, are yet, it's not quite where they want to be. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think that the only person that has said, there might be one other person who said that the deal is got, 50% or more linear. I think the only person was Arizona's president. I don't know that anyone else did. If I'm wrong on that, I'm sorry. But I don't think it was ever mentioned by the Washington president. I don't think it's ever been mentioned by the Washington State president. I don't know about the AD up in Utah. I don't think he said anything about it. So I don't know necessarily that it's a hang up with anybody but the Arizona president. And again, if they've said it and I missed it, I apologize to anyone out there that find it, because I'm sure they will. So if I missed it, if one or two, and it takes a supermajority to get it, right? So there's 10 teams left. So that would be 8 out of 10 have to vote for the deal.
Jim, if San Diego State and SMU are in play, and it appears that they still are based on some of the West Coast writers, what kind of talks process could be going on right now, and how would that play into just the overall process that we've been speaking about?
Well, Craig, the thing there is what that gives you is inventory, right? So you get two teams. That's two more games that you'll have on a week. So instead of 5, you'd have 7. It also, is money issue. The money issue is there. So I think, how do they divvy it up? We'll see. But I do think that they would be wise to go ahead and add the teams now, even if it's before the deal's done, because look what happened when Bowlesby went out and nailed the 4 schools he got, right? It showed that, okay, we're going to be here, because you don't go and add schools if you don't think you're going to be around. And, it's a positive note. And so right now, I don't see why the Pac doesn't just go ahead. If they're going to add San Diego State and SMU, do it, and get some positive press out there.
Jim, one more thing, and we hear about this 31.7 with what the Big 12 has.
Right.
Is that something, and I know Kleofkoff, and he probably meant what he was saying, mentioned a number that would be very high above that. Is
Right.
it almost to the point now where that the number has gotten in the way of, oh, my God, we have to be at 28 or we have to be close to that? Just get it, and you don't want to do a deal for $15 million. That is going to cause chaos. But is that almost become part of the sticking point?
It could be. It could very well be. I don't think that it almost goes back to what do you need? Okay. Do you want linear with X, or can you live with less linear and more money? And that might be where they're at right now. I don't know. But to me, the money issue, if you're close, as I said many times, even if it's under, right? Just get yourself to a contract, get it done, and then sort things out. But I don't know. We're not there yet. But the point's a good point. It is a good point because, I think maybe the media is hooked on 31 more than necessarily some of the presidents are. But clearly there's a couple of presidents that they're hooked on the number.
Jim, thanks for your time and what you do. Appreciate you, Jim.
Hey, thanks you guys.
Williams, Forbes columnist, media consultant, part of that Dennis Dodd article. He has said some of what he mentioned in that article to us, and now another segment with him yet again today. All right, when we come back, Baylor's Director of Athletics, Mac Rhodes, on 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com is available for you if, in fact, you start to have some symptoms of low testosterone. One of them could be, you don't sleep as well. Another one, it could be your energy. You're somewhat more lethargic or even lethargic, and your sex drive is not the same. 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and Dr. Kent Petty and his staff want to help you out. You can Google them or go online, PettyClinicLowT.com, 2 ways to contact them, an email and phone number, and tell them you heard it from me. PettyClinicLowT.com can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, used to be, and need to be by making sure you go get your blood work. They'll set up that appointment. You go get your blood work. They get the results. Dr. Petty will look at them, and if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase it so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. And by the way, it's $165 a month. It's a lot cheaper than about $300 plus if you have to drive to Austin or Dallas and 90 miles in the traffic and all the wear and tear. PettyClinicLowT.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics, Mac Rhodes, is brought to you by Edward Jones Investment Brokers, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, Cam Heathcott, and Chuck Verno. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Mac Rhodes, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and David Smoak on 365 Sports. Mac, thank you very much for your time. The numbers for the women's tournament came out, and it's as good as it's probably ever been, at least since 1995. My question for you, and I saw Charlie Baker make a comment that the next deal is up soon. Do you think that women's basketball is close to having their own TV deal, or is that still a little bit too premature?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I think the women's final numbers were 9.9 million, which I think maybe shattered some of the numbers historically. So really compelling for women's basketball. And as you think about a TV deal for the women's basketball tournament, I think the time is right. I think it'll be interesting to see where it lands financially. Obviously 9.9 is a real number, a really healthy number. As you think about at least football games, highly rated football games, and again regular season games. They're in the probably if you're at a 4 million mark, that's a great number. So to have a 9.9 again, realizing it's for the finals, but I think that speaks and bodes well for the opportunity to have what I would call a healthy TV deal for women's basketball and the NCAA tournament.
There's no, doubt, and no one has ever argued this, that women's basketball is a non-revenue sport based on the expense compared to what they bring in, which, of course, a new TV deal would help that. But do you ever see a day when a program may not lose 5, 6, or 7 million if the TV deal is done?
Yeah, and so again, I think when you look at like the men's basketball tournament, and I had these numbers right in front of me about 2 weeks ago, and I can't remember them, but it attributes to well in the high 80s when we think about percentage of total revenue for the NCAA. And then you think about how that's distributed through units, right, over the 6-year rolling period, and then eventually to the conference, and then eventually to the conference's member institutions. That plays a big part of men's basketball being a revenue generating sport. And certainly, the ticket sales on each campus and the donations affiliated with the season ticket sales do as well. But that number, when you think about revenue, women's basketball has been zero. There is no money from the TV NCAA tournament piece. So, I don't know what that can be in the future. It would certainly help and be a step in the right direction.
What do you think the opportunities are there to maximize not only the postseason, which obviously you're doing well, but the way you can also maximize the postseason is to get more people watching the regular season in both women's and men's basketball. What do you think that needs to be done there so that people don't lose a game that in women's basketball could be, South Carolina and UConn on a Monday night, or, Gonzaga versus Kansas or something like that, that maybe would miss during the certain times, especially in the football overlap period?
Yeah, it's a great question, Paul. And I think, basketball is hard just to begin with because of the amount of games. And so, there's so many more games when you think about both men's and women's basketball as compared to football. And so this overload, so to speak, I think games can get lost. They can get lost, particularly during the week. If it's a midweek game versus something on Saturday. And I think, the TV partners and I think the conferences, really need to work more closely together, more aligned when we think about, promoting maybe very, special, matchups. I think, when you and I think I think women's basketball has been doing this, but what can be done, during the non-conference period of time to create compelling matchups. Does an ESPN or does a Fox create a 4-team, highly ranked teams, right, where they play preseason to kick off the season. And so I do think there's some things that can be done, but I do think it's well on its way, and those conversations are happening as we speak.
Mac, we obviously know who won the title, and just given history and kind of underlying storylines and all that, how much attention did you pay to that? And was it kind of surreal in a way to see, Kim Mulkey going and winning another title at another university?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just being really honest, I don't know that it was any different for me, any more or any less. I'm obviously a women's basketball, fan and watch women's basketball. And so, again, I think it's, it was nothing more, nothing less. We talked about it a little bit, I think on the previous show last week about, Kim is a terrific coach, obviously, and she's at a place that has got great resources. And so that obviously has been a terrific marriage. And, I would expect that LSU be a top 10, program for a long time. And so, I certainly wish, like I do, all of my colleagues, I wish them the very best. And I look forward to seeing what, we end up doing with our program. And as we talked about it last time, I think, we've got some really, really promising, great days ahead of us.
Mac, what is the largest expense in the athletic department? Facilities, salaries, travel? How does that what's the pecking order there?
Yeah, by far it's personnel. When you add up all of the people and, coaches' salaries, assistant coaches, staff members, that's, by far. And, that mirrors, the university as well. And then, from there, it just depends on, where you're at in terms of, what institution you're at, scholarships, a large expense, particularly at a private institution where admission, the cost of attendance is higher, tuition fees is higher, and then you start to dwindle down into travel and that continues to be more and more expensive every year when you think about just inflation. And now when you think about adding the 4 teams that we're adding, and so that's another expense. Debt service can also be a fairly healthy expense. Utilities, another one. So there's quite a few of them.
Mac Rose, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us on 365 Sports. So there's been a couple of players this week from Scott Drew's roster who have transferred, at least entered the transfer portal, L.J. Cryer and now Dale Bonner. Is it now to a point, no matter who you are, what you've done, whoever the coach might be, that you're almost your head's on a swivel when it comes to knowing your roster or maintaining a roster?
Yeah, I think you described it accurately. Scott and the staff, all of them do such a great job in terms of culture. Developing our young men in a really complete way. When we think about our 4 pillars, et cetera, certainly developing them on the basketball floor. But what's hard to control, and this is what makes it so difficult, is the outside influences and all of the different people that are in the heads of our student athletes right now, and you combine that with the intersection of the transfer portal and at least your first time transferring, not having to sit out, and then that intersection with name, image, and likeness, it makes it really hard, and I think everybody throughout the country is experiences this, and I think everybody's frustrated with it, and it feels a little bit like professional sports and free agency, and almost every year now, what's the roster going to look like, and how many new players, and it's difficult, and I think somebody like a Dale Bonner and wanting to maybe play instead of 25 minutes, maybe play 35 minutes a game, and LJ, again, both of those great young men, LJ wanting to now maybe all of a sudden play a different spot at the guard position, point guard, etc. So there's so many things going on, and a lot of it is out of control of the head coach and the staff.
Mac, you've mentioned Scott Drew's culture and that he's built. Have you expressed interest in him when that coaches in that culture get other jobs to maybe do it in another conference, because he's now 25% of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting, and it's really hard, I think if you sat alone with Scott, he's really happy, genuinely happy and proud of, Jerome and Grant, but it's also, really, really hard to compete against people that, are your brothers and you've mentored, and they certainly, those two know so much about, our program and how we do things. And so, I think both Scott and I would prefer, that if we have a staff member, that you go be a head coach in another conference other than the Big 12. And I think we even talked about this, that even in our assistant coaching contract, when they have to buy their way out of the contract, or that institution that they're going to has to buy their way. We have a higher multiplier. It's much more expensive if you're leaving and going to a place within the conference. And so, maybe we even need to double down even more on that. And but we've been careful to, hey, if you want to go be a head coach anywhere else other than the Big 12, then that buyout is, we're happy for you, and you go, and that buyout is minimal. But if it's within the Big 12, we're still happy for you. but it's gonna cost that institution some additional money.
I guess I'm naive on this. I did not know that there were some buyouts for assistant coaches. Is it like an assistant head coach, or is it a coordinator, or is it for pretty much anybody?
We do it for all of our, I'll say this in general. There'll be some one-offs, some nuances to it, but in general, if you're an on-field coach, on-floor coach, you're going to have a buyout, and it's vice versa, and this really, specifically, speaks to the coaches that are on, assistant coaches that are on multi-year contracts. If we're going to give you a multi-year contract and you want to leave early, then, it's a two-way street. And so, it's something that we've been very intentional since I arrived here, at Baylor, and look, our head coaches get it, and they absolutely support it.
The Big 12 announced today, and it's just a constant deal. This is now a business summit. Each school will have a representative sometime in May during the Big 12 baseball tournament. It's just like something that comes out almost like an IV drip weekly through the Big 12 conference. Does this have the footprint or fingerprint of Brett Yormark, or is this something that was already out there?
No, this has this is the footprint of Commissioner Yormark and the staff, and the purpose is, how do we get better? How do we just get better in all areas? And when you think about event management and some of the incidences that we've all experienced, not just within the Big 12, but across the country, and fans on the field, fans on the court, how are we doing that? What are best practices? How can we be best in country when we think about protecting, our student athletes, our teams, our fans, all of that, then, extending that into marketing and fan engagement. And so, to be able to bring people together one place and share ideas, I think it's a great practice, and and I hope it's something that if we don't do it every year, we're doing it every couple years, because I think to be able to share ideas, best practices, create best practices is really good for all of us.
When you do go and get away up in the mountains, do you still have those 3 deer that roam behind your place that you call Craig, Paul, and Smokey?
Yes, and yeah. Here's the good news for the 3 of you. They're still living.
That's
so,
good. That was
okay. Is the one that's Paul got a big rack? I mean, nice antlers. That's what they call it. It's not. I know, but I want.
He's probably the most handsome, Paul.
There we go. That's what that's all I needed to know.
There you go.
So you don't have him in your scope?
I don't know. I don't have him in my scope, and blessed to be able to get away. And when I'm up here, I'm working, and I say that it's good to be able to, my door at my office can be a revolving door, even with Lauren, who guards it as well as anybody. anybody could. But there's just multiple things that come up all of the time that require in-person conversation. So this allows me to get away and really, do some things, review things, do some things when I think about strategic planning, long-term vision, without so many interruptions.
Mac, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy it. Normally,
I appreciate you all. Happy Easter to the three of you, and happy Easter to the Baylor family.
Thank you very much. Baylor Director of Athletics, Mac Rhodes, with us on 365 Sports. He's up in the mountains. He's enjoying a little break. Usually that means a big story is about to hit. Maybe this time, with it being Easter weekend, it will not occur because he's gone up there before. And, well, I think it was Texas and Oklahoma was one of those stories that happened when he was just left Big 12 Media Days. Remember, back in 2021. This is 365 Sports. Large selection of new and used vehicles on the lot at Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. 300 new cars, trucks, and SUVs. 90 pre-owned vehicles. And in fact, speaking of those, Allen Samuels, the dealership, is looking for clean, really nice pre-owned vehicles and putting top dollar in your trade. Highly motivated to make deals happen for your pre-owned, for you to maybe upgrade and get something even better. Interest rates rising. You can go by and take advantage of 0% interest for 72 months on select models. The heat, of course, starting to rise in Texas and around this area. Some top-down fun in the 2023 Jeep Wrangler or the Gladiator. Dodge Last Call event going on. High-performance 2023 Dodge Charger or Challenger before they're gone. And Ram Truck Month coming, of course, and always a part of what they do at the dealership. Right now, you can get up to 10% off on select models. So Allen Samuels, even though the tournament is over and there's specials now in April, there's always some way for you to get what you want on the dealership. And where they are, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
4 o'clock hour starts with John Cooper, Our Lance Guide to the NFL Draft. Draft, of course, is now just 2.5 weeks away. NFL Draft with the number one pick with Carolina because of the trade with Chicago. John Cooper joins us on 365 Sports. So we had the story, I guess, a day or two ago. Jalen Carter, great player at Georgia, has a little baggage, but that Drew Rosenhaus's agent mentioned they were not going to visit schools or teams, franchises that did not have a top 10 pick. Is that normal?
Well, I've never heard of that before, but but hey, nothing surprises me anymore.
Yeah, no, that's definitely
really.
true, John. What have you seen as the moving and shaking in this draft as we're starting to probably wind up pro days all together here? Who's maybe dipped in your estimation and who's starting to creep up?
Well, I haven't really noticed anybody that's dipped, other than Carter, being the potential, problems. The teams are kind of trying to figure out, okay, is he worth a top 10 pick based on a couple of incidents? And, to my way of thinking, he probably will still go in the top 10 unless something shows up down the line, something in that security report they get the week before the week of the draft. If something shows up that is unexpected. Other than that, I think he's going to go in the top 10. The guy that just today had a phenomenal 40 time in his pro day, Devin Witherspoon, who, there was some question on his speed. He didn't run at the combine, didn't run at the earlier Illinois pro day. And today he put up a really good time. And so we weren't anticipating that time being that good, to be honest, 4.42. Now, sometimes you got to be careful with pro days. It's not like the combine. So, but that's a good time for him, and I think that solidifies him as a potential top 10 pick.
John, in your experience, how valuable are pro days? How much stock do you typically or would teams typically put into those?
Well, I think it depends. There's guys that really, really love analytics, and, they want to see the 40 time. I mean, we even have an analytics formula that throws everything in there. 40 time shuttle, everything, wingspan, arm, and we come up with a ranking based on that. I have no idea what goes into that formula that does that. It's a guy who's been doing it for a while. And the thing I've found with a lot of that stuff is they're pretty good at predicting failure or better at predicting failure when you don't have the numbers, the measurables, but they're not as good at predicting success. I've seen guys that have, what we call combine kings, that when push comes to shove, they don't play very well. And, and it's rare, but you do see some of those guys that are very low on the rating scale in terms of the analytics, the numbers and things of that nature that still perform well. My favorite is Malcolm Rodriguez last year. I just watched the kid on tape, and that's what I go by. This kid can play. He's a phenomenal football player. I thought he was maybe one of the top 2 or 3 linebackers in the draft last year. And I got talked into moving him down a little bit on my board. I had him in the 3rd round, and he went in the 6th, and I got a call from a friend of mine who does radio, former head football coach in the NFL. Says, Coop, we were right. This kid, Detroit got a steal. He says, in the 6th round, they got a steal. Short arms, too short, but the kid can play. And I think he proved that out this year with Detroit. He's probably one of the top 2 or 3 inside linebackers in the rookie linebackers in the NFL.
John, a lot of teams, a couple teams have 2 first-round picks this year. Houston, Seattle, Detroit, all multiple first-round picks. Philadelphia. Who do you expect to see move and shake on that end of it and try to do something, maybe package and move, or be able to trade down and make some maybe interesting things happen?
Well, you just go to the very top, not the top, but the 3rd pick in the draft with Arizona. I got to believe that some of these teams that really badly want a quarterback are going to be going at Arizona to try to get that pick. And again, I don't know who that would be. People are, kind of sly about that. They throw things out and there's all kinds of rumors. Is Atlanta looking to trade up? Is Atlanta concerned? They want a quarterback, one of these guys. Is Tennessee interested in that? Would Tennessee trade with Chicago for somebody like, for example, Levis slips down that far? Chicago may be looking to move down again. Seattle's got a pick that could be attractive, as does Detroit. So yeah, there could be, all kinds of things. There's talk that Tennessee wants to move. There's talk that, Houston, might want to trade down with 12. I think Houston's pretty settled on drafting a quarterback at 2. I think there's some stuff out there that maybe that's not the case. And, I remember former general manager Bill Tobin once telling me, listen to everything, believe half of it, maybe a third.
John, how do you feel about Hendon Hooker out of Tennessee?
I really like him. I've watched a lot of film on him because I've studied the defensive backs that he's played against. And you get a chance to look at the end zone view and look at what he's looking at as a quarterback for 2 quarters of each game I look at. And I'll tell you what, he can read coverages. He can get the ball out in a hurry. And I really like him. I honestly believe if he did not have that ACL, he might be in the conversation for one of these, maybe 3, 4, 5 in the top. He'd be in the top 5. Well, he's in the top 5 already in my mind, but he might be number 2, 3, or 4. He could be in that conversation. But I think that ACL is going to give people some pause. And how soon is he going to be ready to play? But don't sleep on him because somebody may still jump up and take him in the 1st round, maybe late.
So other than quarterback, what other position has the most what you would consider, especially in the 1st round, runs on that position based on people maybe being a little bit concerned someone else may not be available?
Well, I think offensive tackle is a position that has some really good talent at the top, maybe 6 guys. And after that, there's a pretty good drop-off, at least on our board, in terms of the talent level. Not that those guys aren't good, but, if you want somebody to come in and help you right away, you might want to get one of those 6 guys that we're thinking about. Obviously Skoronski and Johnson from Ohio State, are the guys that people are talking about. Jones from Georgia, moving on down, you've got Harrison from Oklahoma. So, you've got a pretty good, group of guys, DeJuan Jones from Ohio State, Bergeron, Syracuse. So there's where I could see a run that some of those guys teams that want to get one, all the way through the round. I don't think the tackles are necessarily going to start until about 9 or 10, maybe even 11. But then you could see something. I think the edge rushers. There's a lot of talent in this draft, and there's a lot of depth. So you might see a team that thinks that corner isn't as strong. You might see those two corners, Gonzalez and Witherspoon. You might see them in the top 10. For Will Anderson, the edge rushers start to go off after that. Guys like Murphy, Tyree Wilson, Van Ness from Iowa, Nolan Smith from Georgia. There could be a pretty good run right there. But I think you might see a team look at another need if the talent's equal, because there's edge rushers that they can get throughout the draft.
John, what do you think happens pick-wise with Aaron Rodgers eventually going to the Jets, which appears that train's on the tracks?
Well, I think what I'm hearing, and again, it's probably the same thing you're hearing, is that the Jets are going to give them their second-round pick, and there's going to be a conditional pick next year. I've heard that the sticking point is what the conditions are on that pick. And, I've heard different things. The criteria, does Rodgers go to the Pro Bowl? Does Rodgers lead him to a Super Bowl? The pick gets better if some of those criteria is met. And what I've heard, and again, I don't know 100% sure, that the sticking point is what is the criteria and what's the conditions that are going to be placed on that pick as to how high it is.
John, Texas has a good number of prospects. Obviously, Bijan's getting a lot of attention, but I was curious about DeMarvion Overshown, linebacker, kind of a hybrid guy, very long and athletic, and seems like he would be a pretty ideal fit for this day and age of defensive players. Just what are your views on him, and how do you think NFL teams are viewing him at the moment?
Well, I like him a lot. I think he's a solid cover linebacker. I think that's one of his biggest strengths is he can play in space. He's got good height, so he can get it. He does a really nice job in coverage. I think he's a little bit, as far as on the lanky side, and he's not real. He doesn't have a lot of bulk, going into him. Right? So as far as standing in there inside and taking people on, that's not right now a strength of his. He's a chase player and a good cover player. I see him as kind of in a 4-3, a will type, or even in a 3-4 underfront, over-under type defense where he's going to play, in a more of a will linebacker in that kind of a scheme. Because, you get your 4-3 under and 3-4. They're very similar in terms of how they play these guys. And so I see him as a fit there. He's got, he's almost 6'3", and his cover skills are outstanding. So that's what people are looking for. So, he's going to be one of the top inside backers, somewhere between the second and third round.
How often does someone like a Micah Parsons type player come along during an NFL draft year?
I haven't seen too many. The thing that's unique about Micah Parsons is he not only is he a good inside off-the-ball linebacker, but he can line up on the edge and rush the passer. And that's obviously you can use him in so many different ways. And there aren't many guys like him, although there is a guy that, people are touting as maybe a poor man's, I don't know if that's the right word, of Micah Parsons, Drew Sanders from Arkansas, who's, a big, tall, lanky inside linebacker who's kind of still learning that position as an off-the-ball backer. But he had a great year for Arkansas. And, he was an edge rusher in a rotation at Alabama. He didn't see a lot of snaps for Alabama with all the talent they have. But he certainly has that talent. I don't put him in the same category as Micah Parsons, but I think he's a solid player that, some people are talking about him as a first-round pick. But I'd say for sure he's going to be in the upper second round.
All right, John, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. John Cooper, Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft, Our Lad's Scouting Services, with us on Wednesdays. And by the way, John mentioned last week on the show and also confirmed it again last night that we'll have him up all the way up until the draft, the week of the draft on Wednesdays in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll have Rob Bolton coming up in a couple of segments. He, of course, of the PGA Tour.
You know, the Titans to me are one of the more interesting teams in this draft because, you know, I think hitting Hooker to the Titans makes a ton of sense. Maybe in the second round, they have the 41st pick because, look, they've got Ryan Tannehill an expiring contract. You know, we kind of saw Malik Willis played last year, and they won a game with him because they gave the ball to Derrick Henry 100 times, but they didn't let him throw when he was starting. So, to me, if you're even a rookie that they feel good about, they're going to let you throw a little bit. But they didn't let him throw. And so I think that kind of the writing's on the wall. And at the risk of kind of ruining your rebuild, just ask Washington and what happened with Robert Griffin III is they went full tilt to go move up in the draft to draft him, but then the picks they needed to draft offensive linemen and weapons for him down the line were gone. And I'm not just talking about like the first round picks, but like all these other things that were just not there for them. And then ultimately injuries happened, and then the team was just not built to sustain any of that.
Yeah, you can't miss. It seemed like they drafted what was going to be a 10-year nightmare, and then, of course, it was a year of a nightmare, and then it became a nightmare for the Redskins when he tore his ACL and everything else and just could never play again. RG3, what did they give up for him? Had to be a couple of first-round picks to move up. I don't know the exact details, but when you do that, you hit that, then you can't really miss on the others. You got to then hit maybe a third or fourth round pick that might be better than what people projected.
3 1s and a 2 overall.
And then only one of
them was a swap. So
swap, yeah.
So 3 premium picks.
Yeah.
So 2 1s and a 2 that you didn't have, and those would have been people who, you know, probably would have helped down the line.
And then even in that same draft, they drafted Kirk Cousins. Everyone lost their mind on that, and he turned out to be pretty good. And now he still continues to play and start with the, of course, Minnesota Vikings has a guaranteed contract, I believe. In fact, that's with what he has in Minnesota. All right, the sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW. Emery Winter will put his magic on that. Some of our segments will be there, or discussion of topics will be there every weeknight at 10:30, thanks to Josh Young and all of the people of that great group, especially those who put us on the CW channel. This is 365 Sports. So I'm going to get an MRI on Friday afternoon, and I contacted Rob Maxey. He contacted Ideal MRI. Rob is a partner and a doctor. He contacted the office, or where the office is, the MRI machine and staff in Waco. I got a text almost immediately. And then I missed the call to them. It was a little bit after 6 o'clock on the way home, but I got another text this morning. Please give us a call. I did, set it up. And I have an MRI on Friday afternoon. It is phenomenal how quickly they'll get back with you. And one of the great things about Ideal MRI is that after you get the MRI results, which you will, and your doctor can get that information, the images in the portal, you'll know whether it's something that you need to know more about as far as confirming, or perhaps confirming that, well, there's nothing wrong there. Whether it's a muscle, or whether it is a ligament, or it's something that shouldn't be where it is. Ideal MRI has a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. Their techs and specialists are phenomenal, and I'll get that MRI early on Friday afternoon. It's also just $497 every time. Every time, never more, at idealmri.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma. And they have to come here. They're used to lights. They're used to water in their mouth. They're used to experience. They already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Mickey Joseph, former Nebraska interim head coach, former Nebraska player, had the felony assault charge or case dismissed on Wednesday, today, because the accuser refuses to testify. Joseph had faced a charge of assault by strangulation, suffocation, in connection with a November domestic disturbance. This happened, remember, right at the time when Matt Rule was being hired by Nebraska at the home where he and his wife Priscilla lived. So the person involved, as far as the accuser, would not testify, and so charges have been dismissed against former Nebraska interim head coach and quarterback Mickey Joseph.
Yeah, and I'll just remind people that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. This is kind of the sad truth of a lot of assault cases. We don't know what happened, but I mean, I guess it's fortunate for Mickey Joseph that this has gone away, but I don't think it's not going to follow him around for the rest of his career. That's
all right,
for sure.
Chris Beard got hired. Will Mickey Joseph?
He's nowhere close to a coach like Chris Beard. So I'm sure he can find the job somewhere, but he is nowhere near a level of a Chris Beard as far as having proven that he can go take a team to potential championships. So, yeah, I'm sure there's a job out there for him. It's just a big, giant misunderstanding, just like Chris Beard, though, I guess. And, hopefully that's the last we hear of a situation like that with him, because that would be unfortunate to have another misunderstanding or another incident and just be ugly, no matter what side of the relationship it's coming from, because toxicity goes both ways. So just because the guy gets accused of it doesn't mean that there's not also, something happen on the other side. So whatever the issue at heart is here, just like with Chris Beard, I just hope it's the last time that we hear about it, and that everybody involved can move on in a healthier fashion. But yeah, I don't know how high up he was on. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Mickey Joseph is viewed as some great head coaching candidate. But
no, you're right. You like you always do. You don't beat around the bush. I was just mainly just asking if he'll get a job, but not a head coaching job, but a job. And you're right. But Chris Beard's value, as far as what he accomplished, is a much higher rate than Mickey Joseph. We don't have off the radar tomorrow, do we?
I think I'll be at practice. Yeah.
Babe Ruth, his bat sold for a record $1.85 million after photographic corroboration. Announced a Hunt Auctions, and they go to the Super Bowl. They walk around with all this memorabilia. A bat used by Babe Ruth circa 1920-2021 for $1.85 million, a record price for a baseball bat. The previous record, also a bat that belonged to Babe Ruth for $1.68 million.
Wonder how you can tell in the photograph that specific bat is that.
Markings, I guess. The Polo Grounds bat, known for the stadium, of course, where the Yankees played their home games until 1922, matched a 1921 photo of Ruth swinging it. I don't know, maybe a notch or a bruise or I don't know, but that's where it is. In February 2018, Justin Cornett, a collector, purchased the bat at an auction for $400,800, and he sold it for $1.85 million. That seems to be a very good investment. That 1921 season, Ruth had a record single-season home runs, 59. He also already had 139 career home runs, which was a Major League Baseball record at the time. And the bat received a perfect 10 grade from Photo Authentication Services. And so that bat for $1 point, I'm blown away. I understand that there's paintings and whatever else, antiques, but I'm blown away by the amount of money spent on sports memorabilia. Perhaps I would do the same thing if I ever had that kind of money.
No, look, baseball hadn't been around that long when he had 139 home runs, but even then it had been around long enough to where somebody, based on today's standards, would have had well more than that to that period over those years. But it's funny, I always think of when you hear that, like how he broke the record, and he just kept setting the record every time he hit a home run. Once he did that in his, third or fourth year in the big leagues, or fifth year. And there was the movie, did you ever see it with John Goodman, The Babe, that they did?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was okay.
It was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. It's fine. But the line in the movie, he was talking to one of the players, and he goes, you got to hit them where they ain't. And he goes, well, they ain't over the fences, so that's where I hit them.
That's where he hit them. He hit 714 of them, in fact, for the longest time until Henry Aaron broke it back in the early 70s. Now, what did you guys swing? What ounce bat do you remember? If you do remember, let's say at your oldest age of playing baseball, what ounce bat did you swing?
Probably 30 ounces.
Yeah, 30. I don't remember for sure. Somewhere in there, yeah.
I'd say 30. Maybe I think I was 33. I'm not saying that because it was a heavier bat. I just think I had a skinny handle, 33, big barrel, but I never had any power. The average Major League Baseball ounce right now is at 32. His was 44.6 ounces.
Man.
I mean, he had some tremendous bat speed then. Would have been very cool to see him lined up with all the technology and everything at the disposal today. It would have been great to see him getting a crack at facing some of the better pitchers of this era and seeing what he could do, because young people are always quick to write off the people that came before them. LeBron would dunk all over Wilt and, stupid stuff like that. I mean, shoot, even just LeBron Jordan debates, So I can only imagine how some people probably think of an archaic name like Babe Ruth when all they know is black and white footage and he's playing against guys who don't look like they're really great athletes. But they also weren't, millionaires. They weren't basically on vacation half the year where they just had to work out and stay in shape and then go play their seasons. There were a lot of things that were different. Some of them had to go fight in wars and then go back and play pro baseball, pro football, whatever it could be. So it's definitely not apples to oranges, but that's something right there that, is telling of how talented he was.
Well, and, the argument is flawed when people say, like, oh, well, Babe Ruth wouldn't do well. Well, like, would you, maybe fix his, like, give him a protein shake instead of, whatever
Imagine
he was
the training
eating.
he would have been through.
Exactly, and all that. And, he could be, look, the only other person who's comparable to him, because he was one of the best pitchers in the league until he was, very famously tipping his pitches. Well, back then they'd be like, oh, well, we can't figure out how to get him to stop tipping his pitches. Well, now you would be like, well, we've got like Ohtani. If Ohtani was tipping his pitches, there would be 10 guys in a room going, okay, here's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And they would figure it out. Then it's like, oh, well, I can't get through to him. He's a big fat drunk. And so we're just going to have him hit. And plus, here's the other thing. He would be a DH. Like, what would, like, all these things that would happen, and then you can't, like, take it, well, he would do this or that. Like, okay, LeBron would probably dunk on Wilt Chamberlain, but Wilt Chamberlain would still also score 45 points a game in the NBA right now because you put that guy in and,
He's still 7'2" and was a massive body and an incredible athlete who also starred in track and field.
Yeah, exactly. So, you give them the same advantages.
Now, there was difference sometimes in the competition, but again, that's not on. That's on because, like, think about golf. You had Nicklaus and Palmer and Player and Weiskopf and Trevino, among others, all at the same time.
In 1977, how many times do you think Lee Trevino lifted weights?
Well, we'll ask him the next time he's on the show.
That's
a great question.
Okay,
that's such a great question.
If you're going to send, Wilt Chamberlain into the future, then send LeBron to the past and have him smoke 4 packs a day, like when they did. They're like, oh, I didn't think it was bad. Yeah, I mean, the same rules have to apply either way.
Yeah.
Gatorade didn't exist.
Yeah,
Gatorade was something that when I was a kid in the 70s, the first time it was the glass bottle, that old-fashioned one. There was a big, thick neck. And it was glorious. By the way, real quick note, the Rangers are 4-2. They stopped from being swept by Baltimore. Remember the opening game, Jake DeGrom gave up 5 runs, got knocked out early. Today, he was nearly unhittable. 6 innings, gave up 1 earned run, 2 hits, 2 walks, and struck out 11. And the Rangers beat Baltimore today 5-2. So that's a great note for the Rangers with DeGrom bouncing back. And at one point, I was listening to part of it being nearly unhittable. When we come back, Rob Bolton, the Masters, and our picks, Emery Winter, Craig Paul, and also myself. Remember, we have the link for the Masters competition online if you want. That's available. And we'll have Rob Bolton next on 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street. Oh, man, look, if you're going to maybe pop into, some Easter festivities this weekend and you want to get some lovely craft beer, nice spring brews, I think that'd be a time to do that. They've got all kind of new stuff there, and there's no better variety of craft beer in Waco than Riverbend Liquor and Wine. You cannot beat what they have there, so pop on in and see them. They're available on DoorDash as well, so you can have it delivered. And they have great specials all the time, or great new products, or great things that roll through. Check them out on Instagram. Easy to find. If you just want to go on down to the store and use the speedy drive-through window or their great customer service, it's Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, behind the bank.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Just as it's heating up on the courts, and so are the deals during Ram Truck Month at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with values up to $8,250 plus $500 to first responders. Or get 1.9% for 72 months. Pick from the best selection of brand new inventory in Central Texas. If we don't have exactly what you want, we can help you build the custom vehicle of your dreams. It's Ram Truck Month at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Every golf segment we do, brought to you by Bear Ridge Golf Club. In fact, the Masters promotion, the Pick'em online that we have, winner will get a couple of dozen golf balls of your choice, Shrixon, Bridgestone, Titleist, whatever it might be. Noodle, Top Flight, we'll get it for you from Mike Williams and also Bear Ridge Golf Club. We're now joined by Rob Bolton. Rob, we have drawn, we had numbers. Emery is in, Craig is in, Paul is in, I'm in, and also you are in. You get number 2 pick overall in the draft. How you been, by the way?
Good, buddy. It's good to see you guys. The studio looks tremendous. You guys look great, but David, I got to tell you, you look tremendous wearing the team uniform of the week with the Masters logo. You're really bringing it. Proud of you.
I appreciate that. I have all these shirts. I used to have a lot more, but they were all double extra large, so I had to go get a few new ones that are large. So let's start with this. It's going to rain. And we'll talk about the course a little bit and also the setup and then get into our picks. But it's going to rain. It's going to rain a lot, it appears. Does that mean that we could have something that goes really low, or is that always maybe exaggerated?
No, it does. Yeah, totally. Yeah, the weather, and then you take an extended pause. All right, well, we'll see what's going to happen. Most these guys can do is just play in it, right? Prepare as much as they can. But it's a week like this where there's a couple of, I think, primary narratives. Number one, having played in it before, probably in bad weather at some point is of value, maybe more than another year's, obviously, when it's nice. But secondly, because the greens, even though they can dial it to whatever speed they want, they're going to be a little slower, most likely, right? And that could benefit some of the newer guys. There are, 20 first-time or something like that in the field, who don't have to be as crisp on the greens. And if they're hitting greens, 2 putting for par is not so bad around this place, especially before the cut. So we always see some surprises on day one, and then, they have a tougher time hanging on come round 2, and then the cut is made low 50, and then to go from there. But we may see some of these guys last a little bit longer just because, number one, they're really good, and number two, the course won't be as challenging. So whole locations will matter maybe more into the weekend. But until then, they have to be fair in making sure the course is set up. So I think lower scores, if you're looking at any sort of prop in terms of, where the cut might be, maybe a stroke lower than usual.
Rob, what do you think about the live guys playing in this one? I mean, you've got a couple on your power rankings anyway that you feel will play well because they know the course and have done well. But do you think that they'll be? We asked Lee Trevino this the other day, and he didn't think it would have phased them at all. That the 54 to 72, like none of that's going to phase them.
No. I was thinking about like the narrative of these guys playing in the Masters. I think there's a couple of things. Number one, it's a little bit like, if you work in an industry and you go to a national conference and you see former coworkers or what have you, and there they are working for somebody else, and it's going to be a little bit like that. But this is obviously professional golf, and that's not something we're used to. For them, it'll be fine. For us, it's a little bit new still, because we're still kind of in this full cycle of a year of getting through this new norm or whatever it is. And then secondly, it's probably going to be confusing for the general fan to understand why these guys are playing together again. Or maybe they didn't miss them because they only watch the majors. And I'm very curious how the networks are going to be able to explain this and educate any viewer who may not understand of what's happening in professional golf right now, even though anybody who's followed sports probably has some inkling. So, kind of genuinely curious about that. But, no, I mean, look, these guys, yeah, I get it, 54 holes. I thought what Cameron Smith said earlier this week was really telling in that he just doesn't feel as sharp because he hasn't played a lot. And, maybe missing a little of that competition. Some of these guys get off the hot start on Thursday, some of them won't, and they'll figure it out from there. I mean, again, the experience around this course, they couldn't have asked for a better re-entry into professional golf than Augusta National because it does reward past experience and certainly success more than any place else.
One more quick question, if you don't mind. Is this the only course where you could get out of bed if you've played it a lot? Like even one at no matter your age, Mickelson, Tiger, whatever. We're not talking about couples, but even couples will play well at the Masters if his back holds up. Is this one of those that knowledge, of course, because it's the same one every year, is as critical as any other major?
Totally, 100%. In fact, any tournament, really. I mean, and don't forget about Bernard Longer, who's, he made the cut only 3 years ago. I mean, and got world ranking points as a result of it. It's, these guys, the length of the course has gotten them over the last 20 years, I think, to a man, but they can still figure out how to hit the greens. And I think in a week like this, they'll be hitting driver a lot, but they can still get it up and in on par threes for birdies every now and then. And these guys of a certain age, over 60 especially, they're going to have they still have the capability of having one incredible round. And that they want it most, especially at a place like this. Those competitive juices never die.
All right, so we have five of us. Craig has the first pick, Rob second, Emery third, Paul fourth, and then I'm fifth. The new rule this year, you cannot take the defending champion until the second round. So Emery, are you excited?
Oh, yeah.
Emery's
great to be back.
Emery loves golf, too. This is going to be fun. Craig, you get the first pick.
Well, I'm breaking that rule that didn't really exist to begin with. I'm going with Scotty Scheffler.
Scotty Scheffler, okay. It's you, Rob.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't get that memo either, Craig. Well, I'm going to go for the guy who's chasing the career Grand Slam and take McIlroy.
Emery.
I'm going to take John Rahm.
Paul.
I'll take Jason Day.
I'm going to take Justin Thomas and Schauffele. Back to you, Paul.
I will take Jordan Spieth.
Very good. All right. Emery.
I'm going to take Colin Morikawa.
Rob.
All right, so I'll put my money or my draft pick where my mouth is and take Dustin Johnson, the highest-ranked live player in my power rankings is number 9.
DJ, who's won it, and the course obviously seems to fit someone like him. Craig, you get 2 picks.
Go Cam Smith and Patrick Cantley.
Patrick Cantley. Okay. Cantley's like top 5 or 6 as far as Vegas with the odds. We're going to get Rob to kind of summarize our teams. Back to you, Rob, with the number 2 overall pick, the 3rd pick for your team.
Yeah, last check, by the way. Cantley and Victor Hovland getting the least, the smallest handles right now in terms of, or not right now, but last time I checked it yesterday at some point in terms of betting. But that doesn't mean anything in terms of the results, of course. I'm sticking with the power rankings. Highest guy not taken right now is Tony Finau, so he's my pick.
Tony Finau to Rob is the next pick. I'm going to go with.
I believe it's me.
Well, I don't care. The rules are.
You're 5th, and we're at the 3rd pick. So.
Emery, go.
I'm going to go with Max Homa.
Emery just butts in there. These young kids today.
But you did.
No respect.
I'm taking this serious.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. Well, then you shouldn't be able to play then. All right, Paul.
I will take Brooks Koepka.
Had the win.
I know, yeah.
Yep. You're lucky you did. I would have stolen him right from you.
He's healthy.
All right. I am going with Sung J M. And I'm going to go with a guy that's been pretty hot. I'm going to go with Sam Burns. I always kind of go with some just maybe the guys off the grid a little bit as far as the names. Back to you, Paul Catalina.
All right, then I'll take Victor Hovland.
Okay. Emery.
I'm going to take Tyrell Hatton.
Okay. Rob.
Okay. A little bit off the radar, but that's exactly where I want him this week. Shane Lowry.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Playing the bad weather, perhaps, if it's raining a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And, Craig, you get your final pick and our last pick of this draft.
Let's see here. Let's go Will Zalatoris.
If his putter's on, right? Is that right, Rob, if he can putt?
Well, yeah. Look away, women and children, when you see him putt. It's not the prettiest thing in the world. But it's a good thing that he's really, really strong tee to green.
Yeah, he is.
And he has success already at Augusta National. We want him to be healthy. He says he's 100%. He better say he's 100%. We'll see how it goes with him. But,
all right, for those that don't know, Rob.
Overall, good.
Yeah.
Say again, I'm sorry?
No, for those that don't know on the draft, if anybody misses the cut, even if you end up with the top 3 finishers, you're done. If you miss the cut, if any of your players miss the cut, your team is dead, right?
Yeah, that's there's no mercy in this thing. That's why it's so much fun. We've seen that happen too many times too, and we've had the years where we've all had at least one guy, miss, and it's a push. No one scores anything, even though we've had the winner.
Rob Bolton, PGAtour.com, follows the weekly type picks. He does a great job with us on the majors, PGA Championship, then the U.S. Open and the Open Championship this year. All right, so we have our picks. We have our teams. Your time to shred us.
I always dread this part of the conversation because it's like, how do you circle any of these? And then, David, you always figure out a way to contend anyway. So I'm going to just leave you alone. I don't want to. You don't need any good mojo from any of us, especially me. We all have question marks to some degree because of the things we've already talked about. Zalatoris and DJ and Tyrell Hatton. Even though Emery, you take it seriously. I think, David, you're right on the money. If you're taking it seriously, you're doing it wrong. That's not why we do this, right? But I like that. I like that squad a lot. Even though Homa, I love Max Homa. There's a conversation of the big 3 right now with Rahm and Scheffler and Rory. But I think I've been tossing Max Homa into that for the big 4. He deserves it, and to get him where you got him, I think is a really nice find or steal even. But because he's never had a top 10 in a major, he's never really played that well at Augusta National, and that's the type of thing you expect to happen this week. He's the type of guy to make a big difference. So I would not be surprised at all if he's contending or even wins this thing because he's just that good. Paul, I really love your team. To get Brooks Koepka, I actually dropped him in the league because I watched episode 2 of Full Swing and I wasn't impressed by what he had to say. And granted, those are quotes from months and months ago, but that he's coming off a win. A win's a win, gives him confidence. He's, apex predator, type A type of guy, and that's all he needs entering the major. So, and the fact that you got Hovland there at the end, his short game is so much better than it used to be. But he's going to hit most screens anyway, so it doesn't matter. That's a really nice lineup too. So we have how's that for a diplomatic answer? Everybody's doing it, and everybody's going to have a really good week.
I'll tell you this, Rob. If he and I did not share an alma mater, I wouldn't pick Brooks Koepka for anything either. But look,
he's a mushhead in that episode, at least from Liv. That he was an absolute mental midget, and he admitted it. Basically, he's a mess. But he did win this last weekend.
He did win. It's the second win on that circuit, and again, those quotes are from many, many months ago, before he actually jumped, right?
Yeah.
So you got to put that in the proper context. But nevertheless, it did expose him in terms of he doesn't really have a backup plan in terms of what happens mentally when something goes sideways, and when he gets injured. And all professional athletes at some point either get injured or they lose form. It's just a guarantee. What was his backup plan? I don't know. And he's figuring it out. So you got to give him credit for it. But he's healthy, most importantly. When he's healthy, he's a big dog.
All right. So I picked M. Sam Burns is playing well. Won a couple of weeks ago or so. Was that over the edge of picking?
No, not at all. Again, Burns is sort of in that same lane as Max Homa. Guys who Cameron Young is another one. Guys who have played minimally. Or not at all, or not very well. Patrick Cantlay, another guy, not very much success on the course. But you got to give it time. Always respect the course. They have to see it in other conditions. And all of these guys in various forms have been playing really well in 2023. And Burns coming off the victory. I mean, that's kind of waiting for that to happen. And sure enough, he gets that. So while we have a bunch of question marks, we also have a lot of reasons to be hopeful. And then we just get to go watch him play.
What are your thoughts about Greg Norman not being invited? The Masters, of course, included live golfers, former champions. But your thoughts about Norman not being invited was, and that seemed to maybe calm down any drama that everyone probably thought was going to be even heavier than it's been so far.
Yeah, look, I mean, Fred Ridley does a tremendous job in his role, in the way he's been able to express and convey certain messages and be specific about it. You can tell he's a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
And he's able to do that. And just to say that he wants the focus to be on the tournament, what else would you expect him to say? Mm-hmm. So the decision, probably his decision, the buck stops with him when it concerns the tournament, to not invite Greg Norman, but then also to acknowledge that Norman's been there only twice in the last 10 years, and one of which was as a commentator. So, probably more to that. If the question wasn't asked, it's probably not even discussed at all. Like a lot of things we could be discussing that weren't mentioned. But Ridley was ready with the question and with the answer and the explanation, and I think it's very fair. I'm not surprised at all either. We'll see what happens from here, right?
Yep. One final thing. Who is most likely to make the cut, Phil Mickelson or Tiger Woods?
Wow. Expect that. That's a tremendous prop, but I'm going to go with Tiger. Phil's form has not been awesome. Tiger's chasing a record this week to tie Gary Player and Fred Couples for most consecutive cuts at 23. The field's only 88. You have a lot of older past champions, a bunch of amateurs. The cut is low 50. It's a very generous cut. Tiger knows how to get up and down from anywhere on the property. The challenge will be how he feels in the weather. He'll be fine. It's really about the walk. So I'll lean into Tiger on that prop to tie the record.
Rob, great stuff. Tell everybody a little bit about where you are on Twitter. I know we have we always put your Twitter feed up, but tell everyone how they can find your information.
Yeah, thanks, man. We're now at GolfBet on PGATour.com, the website. Since we've spoken last summer, we have a new app. We have a new website. The fantasy has transitioned and evolved into mostly GolfBet, even though I'm still the fantasy guy on the website. I am the GolfBet Insider officially on the website. And my Twitter handle is Rob Bolton Golf. All O's. All the vowels are O's. So Rob Bolton Golf. And I communicate directly with readers and gamers and bettors all the time, whether publicly or privately. I love the community, and they've been so good to me, so I've given as much time as I possibly can. And obviously, it's great to reconnect with you guys today. Thanks again.
Appreciate it, Rob. Have a great week. Enjoy the Masters at Augusta National. I think everybody has a pretty good team. I got a couple of names in there that I always try to throw in, a couple of unique names. I was waiting for Koepka to come around for one more chance, but Paul, in his love for the Florida State Seminoles, grabbed him, as he always does. Yeah. Regretted that a couple of times. So when we come back, the 4 o'clock hour, wrap it up. 5 o'clock hour includes the newest basketball coach at North Texas, Ross Hodge, who was on Grant McCaslin's staff, introduced today. He'll join us. John Machota on the NFL and the Cowboys at 5:30. Paul's Top 5, and this is 365 Sports. With Easter coming up this Sunday and, of course, Easter weekend, here are the specials right now this week at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Mini pit hams at $4.75 a pound. They have select choice in prime trimmed tenderloin from $9.99 a pound up to $25.50 a pound. Bone-in choice ribeye steaks, $12.50. Also whole chickens at $1.50. Pork butt, the bone-in pork butt at $1.65. Boneless pork butt at $1.99 a pound. And ring bologna at $4.99 a pound. All shrimp, fresh shrimp, is 10% off, and you have about an hour. If, in fact, you want live crawfish this weekend, you can order up until 6 o'clock tonight. 30-pound bags, sacks of live crawfish at just over $3 a pound. If you order by 6 today, that means an hour, then you can pick up anytime after Friday at 4 while they're open, and also on Saturday. Waco Custom Marketplace with the butcher shop and bakery at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Earlier today, we mentioned that another Baylor player has entered the transfer portal, Dale Bonner. A couple of days ago, L.J. Cryer is part of college basketball. Won't be the last, perhaps, and everybody's roster's in transition. And even the coaches, of course, with what Grant McCassin now at Texas Tech. And Ross Hodge, who I've known back when he was like 17 years old as the head coach at Paris Junior College and was a hell of a coach there, is now the new coach at North Texas in Denton. Ross, great to have you on the show. David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and also Craig Smoak. What does this opportunity mean to you?
Oh, man. It means that I've been around some really, really good people through the years, and I've coached some really good players, and I've had so many people invest in me. And it feels like an accumulation of all those things. And it's, I couldn't be more humbled and more excited at the same time.
You know, modern roster turnover notwithstanding, you being able to step in knowing this team already, coming off an NIT championship, which is great momentum going into the offseason. How much does that help just the team and you overall that you guys have this momentum and know each other so well?
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest factors in success in the following year in today's basketball transfer portal era. That if you can hang on to core components of your team, in particular players with championship experience, you're set up to have success the next year. Obviously, you got to go get some more good players, and they have to be integrated into it. But when you have players like Reuben Jones, who's won 3 championships, and Aaron Scott's won 2, and Matt Stone's won 2, and now some of these other guys have their first and second championships, it definitely gives you a little bit of peace that at least you don't have to explain to a locker room what it takes to win. That those guys have a baseline understanding, and they want to keep doing it.
Can you explain to us what that ride to an NIT championship was like to be a part of, and what that meant for North Texas, the basketball program, and just Denton at large?
Man, it was, honestly, starting with the Alcorn State game, that's always the hardest game. In my opinion, I've actually been in 3 NITs. That's the hardest game, to scrape yourself off the mat, with a broken heart that you're not going to be participating in the NCAA tournament, and get the joy and the excitement in the willingness to invest back. And that Alcorn State game, we and they were good. That's the other thing. Anybody you're playing in the NIT, they're good. I don't care what league they're in. They were a champion, and we respected them. And then that Sam Houston State game, we got a little more momentum and started making, we shot maybe like 16 threes in that game. And then the schedule comes out, and a day later you got to go to Stillwater. And that's really when it started turning into, like a movie script, and you're in Stillwater, and you're taking guys like Matt Stone and Tyler Perry, who are Oklahoma kids, and they're back playing close to home and you win that game and you're going to Vegas and now you're playing Wisconsin in the semifinals and you get down early and you fight back and hold them scoreless for the last 10 minutes, and then you find yourself in the championship game playing a team for the fourth time that just beat you in the conference tournament. And it was at that point you're kind of like, man, this is crazy. Like this doesn't even make sense anymore. And for those guys to find a way to get to the finish line and win the last game of a season on a national stage in front of a national audience, man, I couldn't have been more happy for our players and our university and this community. And it's been awesome to see the billboards up and down 35 celebrating our guys, and it's been one heck of a ride.
For those that don't know, Ross Hodge was the head coach at Paris for 3 years, Midland for a couple of years. His coaching record, not including what he's done and what staffs he's been on, including this one with North Texas and Grant McCaslin, his head coaching record is 144-24 at the junior college level, and I used to cover him when he was at Paris Junior College when I did broadcast for Tyler Junior College. Were you on the staff with Bill Foy?
Yeah, I played for Coach Foy. I played for Coach Foy for 3 years, actually, redshirted, and then played 2 years, and then came back the year after they won the national championship. I came back for 1 year. And Coach Foy came to North Texas, which shocked everybody. He had been at Paris for 10 years, and he got this job. And Jim Moffitt, Dr. Moffitt, another UNT guy, believed in me probably when I didn't even believe in myself at that point. Didn't even really fully comprehend the magnitude of what was going on, and he gave me the opportunity to be the coach at Paris when I was 25 years old. And it was like I said, looking back on it now, I know how crazy it was. At the time, you're just kind of going through it, you know. But it was the opportunity of a lifetime, and it certainly changed my life.
Okay, your record 144-24, right,
Yeah.
Smokey?
Yeah.
So, do you know more details about the 144 or the 24?
Oh, the 24, without even doubt, with no doubt. I can tell you details on just about all 24, you know, and Smokey was talking about Tyler, and I remember when we went over there and they had Jimmy Butler and Joseph Fultz. We tipped in a shot at the buzzer to send it into overtime, but it got waved off, and it was the right call. And so I remember that one. Yeah, man, I remember a lot of those losses. Remember the national championship loss when we were at Midland. We got beat by CSI. And then, to be honest, probably the most painful loss I ever had was in the regional final my last year at Paris. We got beat by Navarro and Johnny Estelle in double overtime, and we had a lead late in regulation. We couldn't hold on. We had a late lead in the first overtime and couldn't hold on. And, yeah, man, vividly, I still remember them.
Coach, I'm sure you've had, lots of people who have influenced you over the years, but here most recently, Grant McCaslin obviously getting the big opportunity and leading to your big opportunity. But as he moves on, what are maybe some of the things, one or two, or however many you want to list off that are lessons or just things in general that are going to stick with you from your time coaching with each other?
When you talk about Coach Mack, you got to start with the person. And he talks it and he walks it, and his faith is very important to him. And I've always had so much respect for him in that manner. He's an incredible father, a great husband, brother, son, and he is a really good friend of mine. And I will miss him. And from the basketball standpoint, he's as good as it gets. And he knows what he's doing. He knows how to put a group together. He's great X's and O's. But his biggest strength as a coach is his belief in a locker room and his belief in his players that they can do things that other people would tell them maybe they can't do. And if you look at our 7 years here, it was littered with first first time this, first time that, first time winning here, first time winning there, first time doing this. And he wasn't afraid to say it when we weren't doing it. It's easy to say it now when you won 4 championships in 4 years. Well, that's the expectation. But he was saying that prior. And his belief in his staff and his belief in his players and belief that as a group we could figure out how to win games was really something that I want to take with me for the rest of my life.
Ross, are you a defensive genius?
No, no. We've been extremely fortunate to have a group of players that are completely bought in to the idea that this is how we have to win basketball games. And they, if you look at our road record the last 2 years, I believe we have the best road winning percentage in all of college basketball. And if you don't have a deep commitment to defending and rebounding and playing with a certain level of physicality, you never get the opportunity to do that. And I remind our players all the time of that. I'm extremely grateful. We all were extremely grateful that they let us coach them, that they let us speak truth into their lives, and they wanted it. Because it really doesn't matter how good of a coach you are or how much you may know or how much you may not know. If the group that you're speaking to does not want to receive that information, you won't get the result. And our players have been incredible over the stretch of this last 4 or 5 years, and their willingness to be coached, wanting to be coached. And that's the reason why they're a champion.
Obviously, there was smoke about Grant and Texas Tech once they made the decision with Mark Adams. And my question, and obviously, well, you had Grant on, I guess, right before the championship game. Everyone handled that very well, knowing that it was out there. How difficult was that, or was that pretty simple?
You know what? It wasn't difficult at all. And I had coaching friends that would ask me the same thing. And I would tell them the only thing that's weird about it is it ain't weird. It's like weirdly unweird. It's the most normal. It was I know there was so much noise outside of our program, but inside our program, starting with Coach Mack, the rest of our staff, our players, man, we were having so much fun, and we were so committed to the moment, and we were enjoying film sessions and late night snack sessions and shoot arounds and preparing and getting to play on these stages. And really it wasn't as much noise as there was externally. Internally, there was such a calm and such a peace and such a joy for doing what we love to do and doing it with people that we love doing it with. It was awesome.
Obviously, the conference had a great run with Florida Atlantic and just a shot away from getting to the championship game with what you did, UAB did, and the other tournament as well. How much does that give fuel to North Texas and other schools that, in this day and age, I mean, Cinderella used to just be the first weekend, and it seems like Cinderella can live and that glass slipper can almost go all the way to the last weekend.
Yeah, with the transfer portal, like I said, man, if you're able to keep a core group of your team together, which is what FAU was able to do, you will have a distinct advantage moving forward. And I think we all drew inspiration off of each other. I know personally I did. I know the coaches at FAU, and I know they were watching us and pulling for each other and what Charlotte did in the CBI. And I think you see those things, and even as a player, you realize, like, man, like, we are good, and FAU is good, and UAB is good, and this league was good, and we can go beat these teams. And I think more than ever, it will not be long before someone wins a national championship that people outside of whatever locker room it is, hopefully ours, thinks that, oh, they could never win a national championship. It will be soon. It will be soon.
Final thing, you mentioned Jimmy Butler. That's where you cut your teeth, as you said, in that conference as an assistant, as a player. And you mentioned physicality. You mentioned defense. Isn't that kind of what that conference was like?
Yeah, I mean, it was. You remember?
Oh yeah.
Watching those games and man, the level of players and Hall of Fame coaches. I mean, Scott Jernander, Coach Marquis, Coach Foy, Johnny Estelle, Lewis Orr,
Scott Schumacher,
Guy Davis, the Lon Morris crew,
Dale Dotson,
Roy Champagne.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys could coach, and they were coaching players that were going on to high level places, and it was back in the day, it was a 22 game conference schedule, as you remember, and it was a grind, man. And I'll never forget when I first went to work for Larry Eustace at Southern Miss. We were talking basketball, and I made a reference like, well, I know that was junior college. And he stopped me and he said, Ross, he's like, there is no difference between junior college, Division II, Division I. He was like, basketball is basketball. And that always stuck with me, and I have such a healthy respect for all coaches of all levels across the board.
Great conference, great players, great coaches. Leon Spencer at Trinity Valley for the longest of time, Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I forgot about Pat Smith at Jacksonville.
Pat Smith, Lewis Orr.
He was at Trinity Valley.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. Golly, it was fun. Ross, I'm proud of you. Great to have a chance to visit with you. Congratulations on what you're going to do, what you've done. Good luck with North Texas, and thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Ross Hodge, the new head coach at North Texas, Grant McCaslin at Texas Tech, and North Texas, the NIT champions. All right, when we come back, a couple of nuggets to get to. Also, we'll have John Machota, theathletic.com, who covers the Cowboys. He'll join us in the very next segment or two. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for a great deal, for great customer service, for great repairs, whatever it is you're looking for, whether it's to get into a new vehicle, keep your pre-owned, just get things fixed up. As I mentioned, they are the people that you've been able to count on now for over 20 years in Central Texas, and as a matter of fact, they're celebrating their 24th anniversary right now. Big savings on pre-owned cars and trucks, special savings in particular on GMC Sierra trucks and Buick Envision SUVs. Dozens of Sierra trucks are on the lot right now, and qualified buyers can save thousands on the 2023 SLT 1500s or get 2.9% financing on the new GMC Sierra. You can contact the dealership, or when you go over there and talk to them, get more details on exactly what all that entails. I don't pretend to be an expert, so as far as the numbers and the discounts and the special pricing and all that, that's part of that great customer service. They will help you figure all of those things out, but rest assured, it means good things for you and your pocketbook. If you're looking for a luxury SUV without a luxurious price, well, experience the smooth, quiet ride of the 2023 Buick Envisions. Get lease payments with $5,000 down cash or trade, or save thousands on a purchase right now, including $269 per month in payments. Again, contact the dealership, and they will square you away as far as all of that goes. But you've got a luxury SUV in the 2023 Buick Envision, and plenty of them on the lot right now over at Richard Carr. And also on that lot, plenty of quality pre-owned cars and trucks, many of them under $20,000. They're affordable and thoroughly inspected and ready to finance for almost any credit rating. So if you want to drive your car or truck a little while longer, you can also contact their award-winning service department, which as far as the pre-owned vehicles go, certified pre-owned vehicles give you 6 years, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, 12-month bumper-to-bumper warranty. So a lot to digest over at Richard Carr, but lots of great deals to peruse through and to hopefully choose at the end of the process. For 24 years in Central Texas, they built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps be coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy, last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. When it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
John Machota, TheAthletic.com, covers the Cowboys and the NFL with us on Wednesdays in the 5 o'clock hour. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and David Smoak. Okay, John, I know this is really just a very generic question, and it all depends on what happens in front of them. But now that they've made all these moves, the trades they've had, if in fact you were to say priority position 1, 2, and 3, how would that be, in your opinion, on their draft board?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would start with 1 for me is defensive tackle. I just, for a while, have thought they needed to do more at defensive tackle. Obviously, it didn't work out with Tristan Hill, but man, I mean, they haven't spent a first-round pick on defensive tackle since Russell Maryland in '91. I mean, and I feel like we've talked about this for many years when the draft comes around. So I'm to the point now where I talk about it, I think about it, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, they're not going to draft defensive tackle because they never do in the first round. So I would say that'd be number 1 for me. Number 2 would be left guard. You know, there's that talk that came out of the league meetings last week about Terrence Steele getting some work at left guard, and they signed Chuma Edoga. I think that they talk about how they have bodies there, but I think they would really like to get a player there early in the draft, meaning when one of the first 3 rounds. I don't know that you necessarily need to take a left guard in the first round, but maybe in the second or third, that would make some sense. And then next up for me would be tight end. I mean, I like what they got in Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot, and I think Sean McCune's a solid player. And this is a deep tight end class, so I'm not saying they'll do it in the first round, but when you look at this roster, it certainly could use another tight end with them losing Dalton Schultz.
John, running back obviously has to be a little bit a priority to them because they don't know about Tony Pollard. But are they maybe wrapping, like if you look at the visits they've had, are they kind of wrapping their arms around the fact that they don't really need to talk to Bijan Robinson and that if he's there, great. If not, then sometime later on?
That's the sense I get, but I don't get the feeling that he would even fall out of the teens. I don't even think he would get there, to the 20s to where you'd really even start getting interested. So I do feel like it's almost like a CeeDee Lamb situation where, before that 2020 draft, like this time, like about a month out before that 2020 draft, there's no way we were talking about a realistic possibility they were going to take CeeDee Lamb there. It was this team needs corner help, they need edge rusher help, and that Caleb Von Chason was there in that 2020 draft, and they still took CeeDee Lamb because it was like, this is just too good of a value. I feel that exact way about Bijan Robinson. If he's there, great. If not, I think they feel pretty good about the running backs that they can get in the second or third, maybe even fourth round that can complement Tony Pollard. Because I just don't think that there's another back that you put on that same level like a Bijan Robinson that you would take at 26. I think that you would wait till the second or third round or fourth round to do that instead. But yeah, I'm sure that they would be thrilled if Bijan Robinson is there because to me, 26, that's great value for a player that's one of your cornerstone pieces of your offense for the next 5 years at least.
All right, so are you ready for if Bijan is available and they don't take him, that massive amount of just meltdown?
No, what's funny about that is I feel like, can you imagine too if it was like last year's draft? Now we see a full season, so we know Tyler Smith is a good player, and we look at Tyler Smith like, hey, that's their left tackle for maybe the next decade. That's a great pick, But when they made that pick, you're sitting there going, man, I don't know about all of that, man. Jermaine Johnson was still out there, George Karlaftis, David Lloyd. There were some like really good players, Tyler Linderbaum and like some guys that we had talked about for a while. And they take Tyler Smith and you're left scratching your head. So can you imagine they do that in this draft? Like they sit there and Bijan Robinson's there at 26 and they take that Steve Avila, the left guard out of TCU. Of course, it fills a huge need, but man, that's not going to be the one that the fan base wants. And there's several levels to that because it's not just because Bijan Robinson is such a dynamic player and one of the biggest stars in this draft, but it's the Texas connection as well. It just seems like it's this no-brainer. I saw the Vegas odds on this, I think it was last week, that the Cowboys were the favorite to land him just because, well, one, it's the Cowboys, and there's going to be a lot of people that bet on them, but it's just because it seems like it makes so much sense for him to go to the Cowboys. But I got this feeling, man, I just really think he's going to end up going to the Eagles. So any of those Cowboys fans out there that don't want him or don't want to take a running back in the first round, I don't know, be careful what you wish for because you might be seeing him 2 times a year.
John, they're never going to have the decency to suck bad enough to get the player that the fans really want. Like, I think that's where they are. Like, they're either going to be just as kind of good or just bad enough to where they're kind of in the middle and they still won't do that. That's been their story. But even with Brandon now on wide receiver, with Brandon Cooks in the fold, I know it doesn't become a priority, but they have brought in some guys for the workouts and talked to some. Is that something that they are kind of like Bijan? If somebody like Quentin Johnson or Jordan Addison would fall to them, then they might have to go, all right, let's take a look at this.
I'm glad that you segued that in with the wide receiver talk, because when you started your question, all I was thinking about is that comment from Brandon Beane, the Bills GM. This was back in January.
Yeah.
And they were talking about them needing to get better receivers and getting a guy like a Jamar Chase. And he's like, I don't want to suck bad enough to have to get a Jamar Chase, which is so true because you got to be really bad to have a pick that high. And so, yeah, the Cowboys like being in this spot. They want to draft in the 20s. Heck, they'd like to draft in the 30s, because that means that you're doing well. But with this draft, there is no Jamar Chase, So what intrigues me about this wide receiver class and where I think it could really be in play for the Cowboys at 26 is that you just get the sense that everybody's going to have that top 4 or 5 wide receivers ranked just a little bit differently. And so let's say you're sitting there at 26, and we'll use Jalen Hyatt because he's one of their visitors out of Tennessee. Let's just use him as an example. What if they have Jalen Hyatt as the number 1 wide receiver in this class? Now, of course, 10, 15 other teams might have him as their 3rd best or 4th best. But if he's the number 1 wide receiver on their board, and he's there at 26, I think it's going to be hard for them to pass on them. So I think how every team has their board stacked up at that wide receiver position could have a big say in it. Because, if you're getting the first or second best wide receiver you think in this class at 26, that's probably too good a value to pass up on.
The trades they've made, that's a little bit different. Is that influenced by anyone in particular in the front office?
Last week at the league meetings, that was funny how Jerry and Steven both when they were asked about being more aggressive this offseason, because mainly those two trades, obviously, with Gilmore and Cook, and they both tried to downplay it. Like, no, we've always looked at this stuff or whatever. It's like, yeah, you've always looked at this stuff, but you rarely make a trade like this, and then you do two in less than a month. Like, you can't sit here and tell me you're not being more aggressive. So they're trying to downplay it. But there's no question that they went into this offseason like, hey, we got to be more aggressive. And I think one of the reasons why they feel that way is because this is a huge year for Mike McCarthy. They want to give him every chance to have success. And let's be honest, it's a huge year for Dak Prescott, too. They want to give him every chance to have success and finally get past that second round of the playoffs. And so because of that, I just think that whether it's Jerry, Steven, Will McClay, all together, all three of them, individually, whoever's driving the force, it's that the time is to win now. Aaron Rodgers is probably leaving the NFC. It certainly looks like the NFC is wide open. Our roster is set to win big now. We've been knocking on the door. Let's put a little bit more pressure on that gas pedal, and I think that's what they're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, things have certainly worked out for them, John, but they do seem to get a little they believe themselves just a little too much. Like, a little bit less self-esteem would have been good in these last few years, right? Where they're like, we believe in our guys, and that's great, but sometimes like they bet on things to work out and don't seem to take in factors. And they, like with Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, it seems like that situation finally occurred where they're like, sometimes you can't just expect things to work out for you because your last name is Jones.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you're right. They do stick to what their plan is, because I think that reported asking price last year on Cook, or not last year, but during the trade deadline, was around a third round pick. Now they obviously got him for a fifth and a sixth. So obviously, and then Houston's taken on $6 million of the $18 million he's going to make this year. So the deal is a lot better this offseason. But I feel like that there are several teams across the rest of the NFL that would have been faced with that same deal last year that had that Cowboys roster. I think a lot of teams would have made that even on a third round pick and been like, hey, let's just go for it. We clearly don't have that number 2 receiver. Yeah, we went out and got T.Y. Hilton, but we need more juice on the perimeter of this offense. We need a guy like Brandon Cooks. Let's get this deal done. I know it's going to cost us a little bit more. We don't want to give up a third round pick. Let's be a little bit more aggressive here. But they sat back and they were confident they could get it done with what they had. And so I think that they look back on that, not spending more to replace Amari. They don't have regrets about moving on from Amari. They have regrets about not doing more to replace Amari. And so that's where I think a little bit of what we're seeing this offseason is a little bit of carryover from that.
All right, John, there's a note in the chat room from JG Neolardo. Man, I wish I had Machota energy every day. Dude loves his career.
That's the truth. I do. I really do. I mean, the only thing that's missing right now, I just want to see this team make a deep playoff run. I want to see them go, get to the Super Bowl and just see how crazy it can be then. I grew up as loving watching football in the 90s as a kid and seeing how dominant those teams were. I would just love to see how it would get if they could get back anywhere close to that level again.
John, do you get this feeling? We had when one of his books came out, Tim Cowlishaw wrote a book about the Cowboys in the 90s, and we had him on the show and we're talking to him, and you and I are newer to covering this team. It's only been, since well after that run. But I said, you hear it say this, and I feel like I'm covering the band after they got out of rehab. Like they're doing the blues album because that's what they like, but nobody wants to hear it. And everybody else, like those guys, got to, kind of like Smokey, got to be there when it was really cool.
No, there's no question about that. I will say, though, the only difference, because I do like the band analogy a lot, because that is a really good one. I mean, I spent like $300 to go see Paul McCartney when he was in Fort Worth last year, because I was like, I don't know how many more times he's going to be coming. I don't care if anybody else is going. I'll go by myself, whatever, because you just want to see that greatness and be able to say you saw that greatness. And so I agree with you on that. The only thing I will add, though, is that, like, the style of music that the Beatles play, I don't think that that's gotten more popular. The NFL has gotten more popular than it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
And so because of that, that's where I feel like, yes, if the Cowboys got back there, is Dak as popular as Troy Aikman? No. Is CeeDee Lamb, Emmitt Smith, or Michael Irvin? Of course not. But if just this brand, combined with the fact that it's been 27 years plus, I just think the energy would be so crazy if they got there, and then also the carryover of it. Because if they finally got there, you'd have a lot more faith that, hey, you know what, they know what they're doing. They do have the right recipe. They can keep building, and who's to say that they don't go on another big run? But you got to see that first one to know that it's going in that right direction.
John, enjoy your job. I know you guys. There's two different old man jokes. That was kind of a shot at me.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it was just you were there.
No,
and you were at all those Super Bowls.
I covered 7, 8, and 30, and 27 and 28 teams. They were unbelievable, and they could have easily have gone to 29.
All right, so you got to cover, and I'm a Cowboy. I grew up a Cowboys fan. You got to see the Cowboys win 3 times. John, the last Super Bowl I got to be at in the stadium, I had to watch the Eagles win.
That's right.
It was tough.
Yeah.
And then, listen to people talk about hoagies and having a good time.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, it was tough, to be professional during that time. But
yeah, it was a special time. That 91 team, the way they ended it, when Aikman was hurt and Berline, I think, took them until Detroit beat them up. Washington won it. Looked like they were going to be around for a little bit. But, man, that run they were on was phenomenal. It could have been even better had it not been for the salary cap. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. John Machota, theathletic.com, on the Cowboys in the NFL. And appreciate that note on him from JG. Daniel Dansby, who's a huge North Texas fan, he feels like they're not really getting much respect on who they could play and why didn't Baylor play against them? That's simple. Scott Drew's not going to play against former assistants until he has to, like Jerome Thane, Kansas State, McCaslin at Texas Tech. But he did say this: I've been following you since I was 5 years old, living behind Hobby Lobby in Waco.
So how old is he now?
Got to be 18, maybe. I think Daniel may 17 or 18. But
okay, good.
Daniel, thank you for letting me know when you started watching or listening to us when you were 5.
Not only that, let me think about this about that. Now I had to watch the Eagles win the Super Bowl with a quarterback that, like, a year before, when he was a free agent and the Cowboys needed a backup quarterback, Jerry Jones made fun of him with Nick Foles. Like, that stung a lot. It was like, oh, man. I think I texted you that. Like, I'm about to watch the Eagles win the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, and Jerry Jones made fun of him a year ago.
Yeah, well, he was their Cooper Rush, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, he's better than that. He obviously took him very, very deep. All right. Thank you very much, John Machota. Paxton, I get no respect, Rodney Dangerfield. By the way, Kim Coulter said John made the best point about Amari and how that went down and how they handled it. So there we go with that. This is 365 Sports.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business?
We kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession?
We selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 Pac-12 quarterbacks. Then we'll move on to a new position. It'll be up for debate with the top 5 committee, all of whom don't get anything but the top 5 play at home game, which is just in your own imagination. But yes, we have a committee, and it worked out today. This one was, and the reason I saved it for the end is this was the easiest to come up with. The Pac-12 actually has a fantastic stable of quarterbacks. We could have theoretically done maybe even a top 8 here and gone in, whereas some of the other conferences, it was hard to get to 5 because there's so many unknowns, especially in modern college football with transfer portal and who's in and out and what's going on there. And there was a big transfer. I'll say we left off DJU because Garrett made the point if he had to transfer for a reason. So we left him off, and we're going to say, start here with number 5, Cam Ward. Had a really good year. I mean, a really good year at Washington State. We'll see how they do again. Really transitioned well from Incarnate Word into the Pac-12. Was really fun to watch. And Wazoo, I think their arrows pointed, at least tilting up. As long as he's still there and playing like he did last year, they have to shore up some things, and part of that's him. But really was impressed with how he played last year.
Yeah, I mean, to make the big jump that he did, I mean, that's pretty significant going from Incarnate Word to Washington State. So, yeah, sensational job in making that transition. Had some nice numbers and really did a world of good for that program who, obviously is in a bit of a transition. And, he did a good job as far as, not only matching what he did at Incarnate Word, but in probably some cases exceeding that. And he's get a bit better as far as probably his completion percentage. He could get probably a little bit better there. Maybe I'm wrong. He has 64%.
Yeah,
I feel like
he could be up.
He could improve that. But yeah, I mean, 23 to 9 touchdown interception ratios, fine. Maybe cut down on those slightly, but yeah, I mean that's nitpicking. He did a great job for them, and I'm excited to see the follow-up through for 3,000 plus yards. Expect a lot more in 2023.
I don't have his trending. I could have looked up his stats, but it seemed like to me about middle of the year, I was wondering about whether he was wearing down a little bit, but he ended up playing very well.
And then there's a bit of people now have film on you that they see you, they watch.
Throwing it 40 times a game too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the completion percentage. That's part of the turnovers. Is he was a lot of their offense and throwing it just all the time. So I'm curious to see how maybe they how maybe they change that up here coming up next season. But yeah, I think he did I don't know what kind of injuries he was dealing with, but it did seem to taper off a little bit as the second half of the year progressed.
Number 4, Washington's Michael Penix was, just a godsend for the Huskies last year. And, people maybe kind of forgot about him because he was in Indiana and got hurt, and then here he comes and transfers, but was really fantastic. Washington will be in contention for the conference title this year. Again, they're really deep. They've got a great thing going, and Michael Penix is one heck of a leader and really a fun player to watch.
As a lefty, sometimes it looks different with the way the ball comes out. And against Texas, I didn't see him throw the ball deep very well, but it seemed like he could nickel and dime and just kill you. But very, very poised is what I remember, because there were times, of course, when that game wasn't easy, but that's what I remember most about him.
Yeah, he's a really good player. He was good at Indiana, just certainly not surrounded or watched by nearly as many people as he would be last year. At least it doesn't feel that. It feels like he was kind of just a guy probably not a ton of people knew about, but your diehards, certainly knew what he was doing for the Hoosiers. But, yeah, he had a great year. I didn't expect him to beat Texas in that final game, but that was impressive, even if he wasn't, at his best necessarily. They're definitely excited about what's going on in Seattle, and he's a major, major reason why that is. So, yeah, I'm very excited to see. Some people thought he should get Heisman consideration, or not like a winner of it, but just he's a player of the year type of caliber type of guy, and, still obviously in a very crowded conference quarterbacks-wise, but he's a very good player.
Yeah. Number 3, Cam Rising. I mean, they're like 2-time defending conference champion quarterback here, and tough guy, has overcome a lot of injuries and coming back for that last year. He is the ultimate coach quarterback, the way that it seems like Kyle Whittingham and him can kind of share a brain in that they're very. He's kind of picked that up really well. I love the way he plays with. I don't want to say reckless abandon isn't the way he plays, but he's just tough and he's gritty, and
I'd go in a dark alley.
Yeah,
I'd want him to be. We may get both beat the hell out of us, but he's got that. Yeah, he has that leadership type. It seems like that just feeling that let's go. Get on his back and let's go.
Yeah, I want to go back to Penix, and I mentioned it with Ward. I should also mention Penix as well, throwing it about 57,000 times a game.
54 against Texas.
I don't know how sustainable it is or how well that leads to success for anybody who's doing that. But, yeah, I mean, Penix was another guy who just threw it constantly, and so maybe he'll have a bit more of a balance this year. Certainly Ward could use a lot more of a help around him to help balance things out, but – Cam Rising's super tough. I mean, at one point in time, he was the next Texas Golden Boy, and that didn't ever materialize, obviously, which is why he's at Utah. But I was super impressed. I thought he was going to be a guy who just faded away and was a bust of a recruit, or just a guy who didn't quite become a superstar. And he's living up to his billing. I mean, he's leading them to titles. He's got them in consideration for amongst the top teams in the country, and I respect the heck out of what he's done. He's blossomed really well.
By the way, back to Cam Ward. No, I'm sorry, to Penix. He threw the ball over the place. He had 2 games, I think. One game where he threw the ball less than 30 times in a game.
Yeah,
he's got a rubber arm.
That's kind of weird considering how many good running backs they have, but they have several there at Washington. Number 2. Bo Nix. This one was, Kenny Dillingham, what he did. Now he's at Arizona State, but he's the offensive coordinator. The way that he took what Bo Nix was the ultimate, feast or famine kind of quarterback, and he would show up in the big moments. I would compare him to, when John Belushi was on Saturday Night Live, there were sometimes where he'd be so messed up before the show started, they didn't know if he was going to be good. And then he'd roll out there and do it. And that was kind of Bo Nix at Auburn. First part of the game is how is that even in this thing? He's not playing well. And then all of a sudden they're within a score or two late in the game where they have enough time to get drives. And then Bo Nix, comes back and makes ridiculous plays and they win. Somehow Oregon found whatever button it was to push in Bo Nix that, hey, why don't you do that instead of for 10 minutes for the whole game? And he did it certainly last year with that Oregon team. Now, granted, I think surrounded by a little bit of better cast, but he elevated everyone around him last year. And Bo Nix, would be number 1 on this list if not for who is the obvious number 1.
There's something to be said for a change of scenery. Mm-hmm. something to be said for being older as well. So I think those probably helped aid him tremendously. I was happy for the guy. He took a lot of S when he was at Auburn. Was a scapegoat in a lot of ways. And to see him go and, lead them to a pretty incredible season. I mean, they lost 3 games, but only one of them was super out of hand. So that was, Georgia right out of the gates, and we saw what they did the rest of the way. But, that was not indicative of all of how the rest of the season was going to go for Oregon. So they rebounded quite nicely. And then, their other 2 games late in the year, unfortunately for them, to top 25 conference opponents, and they lost by, a total of 8 points or something like that in between the 2. They were fantastic outside of that Georgia game, and there's a giant, I think, expectations for him and the Ducks this year because he's coming back and because of what we saw last year.
Yep. All right, you don't even do one.
Hey, yeah. Number 1, some lame dude named Caleb Williams who can't do anything. No, the guy that there's players that come along every once in a while that you could, NFL teams will go, you know what, let's not tank, but we're not going to try that hard down the end of the stretch. There's going to be a lot of guys that go on IR that aren't coming back.
Are you saying tanking?
I think they're going to there's going to be a couple teams the last 4 weeks that are going to go, you know what? We're going to go get this dude right here with Caleb Williams. He's that good. He's very Mahomes-like in what you see. And, he won the Heisman Trophy for a reason. It wasn't politics or anything. The proof is in the pudding with him. And, we'll see how USC responds to last year knocking on the door of winning the conference title and being in the college football playoff, but not. The reason they didn't win it wasn't because of Caleb Williams. I mean, he did get hurt in the championship game, and that hurt them. But it was because Utah was out and out tougher on the other side of the ball, and not fantastic, but tougher when it came to stopping people. But Caleb Williams, he's worth by himself for any team 9 wins. If you have him and nothing else, you're probably 9-3. That's how good he is. And if you just put a little bit more around him, you see what they can do.
So did they lose their last 2 games?
What?
Did USC lose their last 2 games to Utah and then to
Tulane? They would have lost in the bowl game.
Yeah. 2 classic games, but okay. Greg, on Caleb?
Utah probably still wins that game, but him being hurt definitely helped out tremendously, especially, as that thing went on along. I think that mattered a great deal, but they were a bit of a one-trick pony, you could say, at USC as far as just offense and no defense, really. I know that's something they've talked a lot about in the media, but it sounds an awful lot like what we heard in Norman at times. And I don't know. All of the evidence is in one column when it comes to Lincoln Riley teams, and there's basically no evidence on the other side of them being some super balanced powerhouse. I mean, some of their championship runs, their defenses were probably better than given credit for, but I don't know. Words don't really mean anything to me if I'm a USC fan. I want to see some defense being played. And if they let Caleb Williams go, as he most certainly will after this season, without, supplying with a bit more around him, I think that's a real missed opportunity and a real shame because I don't think there's just another dude coming down the pipeline like him. I know that they went from Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts and all that. With the transfer portal, you can do that. But I think he's different. I think that's not a guy that you just plug and replace just like that. So should be a hell of a year. He'll be on top of all the mock drafts, I would imagine. And if he's not, there's some D lineman or something I'm not thinking of. But this is going to be built up to be a big last hurrah for him and for Lincoln Riley and the Trojans as far as the Caleb Williams era goes. So excited to watch him play. He's incredible. I mean, he's a stellar player. And amazing that we watched Baylor kind of kick his ass and Oklahoma's butt. I know Oklahoma fan, of which I'm one of them, will say, I never use this excuse because I was paying attention to the other side as well. But, he was out already sniffing around the USC job and all of that. I remember that being the big excuse. But, that was one of Caleb Williams' worst games by far. So, rare to see him have a day like that, and I don't expect to see many of those coming up. I think he'll be right there, maybe the next Archie Griffin, the only other guy to do that back-to-back Heisman.
That game against Baylor in 2021 – they tied him up like a pretzel, and you could see that coming. In fact, they benched him, and they brought in Spencer Rattler. because that was such a frustrating day at Baylor's defense just beat up Oklahoma in that game in Waco a couple of years ago. What do those 5 guys have in common?
Transfers.
Every one of them was somewhere else. Rising at Texas, Nix at Auburn, Caleb at Oklahoma, Penix at Indiana, Cam Ward was at Incarnate Word. Every one of them. 5 elite level type players.
And then if you keep going down, like if I said DJU was at Clemson, Jaden DeLaura was at was Washington? Was that where he was? Where
Not
was he?
sure. Yeah.
Craig. He was somewhere else. The quarterback at Arizona.
Was at Washington State.
Washington State, yeah. Oh, he's at Washington State. Shadir Sanders was at Jackson State.
Those are all really great academic guys, huh?
I just hope they're
the study group among them.
I hope
is
that they're
great.
progressing towards a degree. And then I don't know, maybe one of them is a grad transfer. I'm not sure who would be in that mix, but good luck to them. By the way, at this date, 2021, Baylor beat Gonzaga to win the national title, 86-70. I just had somebody bring that up in the chat room when Baylor won their first national title.
And set Kim Mulkey on her courageous journey to go to a bigger school.
Scott Drew winning the national title. Yeah, that was part of the parting gifts and reasons, too. All right, great stuff, Garrett Ross. Thank you, Emery Winter. Sports Tonight at 10:30 tonight. Also, thanks to Texas Beef House. Thanks to Aaron Duvall. They sent a large packet of a lot of what they do, their product, fajita meat, hamburgers, summer sausage, some ribeyes, and more. And we had those hamburgers earlier today. We're about to maybe take a couple of them home. We appreciate them very much. For Paul Catalina, for Craig Smoak, thank you for watching. Tomorrow, year 3 of 365 Sports. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare